All right. Welcome, one and all, to the Xbox 2 podcast. I believe this is episode 348, yeah? On beautiful...
Something like that, yeah.
Beautiful January 17th, 2025. What is this, like the second episode of the year? Lots to talk about. A lot of things going on in gaming this week. Nintendo finally decided to show up. And I'm sure everybody here is clamoring and waiting with bated breath to hear what Rand and Jez think of the Nintendo Switch 2. That's why everybody's here. They want to know our opinions about the Switch.
Yeah, being the Nintendo influencers we are. You know.
Yes, having the biggest Nintendo 2 podcast out there.
Yep.
But anyways, if you don't know, I am Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And this is my right-hand man. We got Jez Corden, executive editor, moving up the ranks. I feel like if you went back and listened to the earlier episodes, it's like, hey, Jez Corden, writer at Windows Central. Hey, Jez Corden, managing editor at Windows Central. Hey, Jez Corden, whatever the next position would be. And now finally, executive editor, the next step up. Hey, Jez Corden, owner of Windows Central.
Well, I suppose the only place further up now I can go is editor-in-chief, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Which would mean Dan retiring, which I can't see happening. So I'm pretty happy where I am.
Yeah, pretty happy. Pretty good.
Yeah. Also, executive editor-in-chief of Xbox 2 podcast, baby.
Are you really? But I'm the one who puts everything together. I'm the one who actually grabs topic. Jez rolls in every single podcast like 10 minutes before we go live like a diva. He's like, is my M&Ms in place? You got my liquor ready for me?
M&Ms?
Yeah, you know how those rock stars used to have all those weird requests? Like,
oh, right.
I want my room with Skittles, but not the yellow Skittles. And like,
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Jez always says, I need my waiting room to have bottles of brandy and some chocolate or whatever you love to drink. Jez just rolls in being like, I'm here so the podcast can begin,
Well, dude, that's what executive means. It means you have underlings to do it for you. So get to work, bitch.
Oh, jeez.
Introduce the show.
Is that that's the only reason I'm here. I'm just here to run the show. So Mr. Corden can, take it easy for the next 4 hours while he plays Overwatch 2, a game that's getting destroyed by Marvel rivals.
No, we're playing Onimusha at the moment.
Oh, Onimusha.
Playing some Onimusha.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little bit annoyed because I think Xbox rolled back my save file somehow.
Nothing's going right for Xbox, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if I've messed something up or like there's a sync issue or something, but yeah, I feel like I've lost several hours of gameplay. But whatever, man. It's a cool game. It's a cool ass game.
Zach Riley in chat says he's currently waiting to get an X-ray. Fun times. Well,
X-ray.
That sucks. Hope it's not a broken bone or something. X-rays.
Well, I mean, that's usually what X-rays are for, right?
Well, true.
Although, you can also, X-rays are I think you can X-ray for lung conditions as well. Hopefully it's not a lung condition.
You
Go.
You okay there? Are you alright? Did we almost have Jez Corden kick the bucket live on air? What was that?
Yeah, I was going to need an X-ray as well. Nah, the Coca-Cola went down the wrong fucking pipe. And I was going to say, get well soon. And then I started choking on my Diet Coke.
Karma.
0 sugar. Or in the German, null Zucker. Null Zucker. No Zuckerbergs in this Coca-Cola.
This is Zuck-free. Zuck-free zone.
Zuck-free.
Oh,
no.
I thought you were just gonna die on me there. I was a little worried.
No. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, well. We survived. For now.
We survived. Welcome, everybody, to the Xbox 2 podcast. Do us a big favor. Hit the like button, please, if you haven't already. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And, kind of a big week. Last week, Xbox revealed the developer direct, and there was a whole bunch of speculation about stuff. And this week, well, a lot more things happened. It seemed like everybody was in the news this week. Xbox denying reports Nintendo finally revealing the Switch 2, and PlayStation doing what PlayStation seems to be doing best this generation, canceling games. Now the live service thing, man, it's tricky. Not only is it's just really just a stuffed and compact field, and yeah, I guess this was sort of what happens when you greenlit 12 live service games at once. And then you have the disaster of disasters, Concord. Probably scared them off a little bit. But we do have a lot to talk about. So let's get into some Patreon shoutouts and we'll start the show. We appreciate everyone we appreciate everybody who, helps us out on Patreon, patreon.com/XB2. The question and answer thread is up, which we will answer at the end of the show. So if you haven't got your question in, make sure you do so. And for anybody who has joined and doesn't realize it yet, we did a show with Special Nick this past Tuesday on Jez's channel. So
you sure did.
That was a lot of fun.
Good show.
To hang out with
Long
Nick.
one.
Yeah, it was like over 2.5 hours. But that's what happens when me and Special Nick get into the same podcast. Shows tend to go long because Nick likes to hear himself. Nick loves to hear himself speak. Very much. It's very true. He loves himself some Nick. He just loves to talk.
Oh man.
So that was
really going to do Nick like that? Not even here to defend himself.
I mean, he would agree.
I feel like he'd agree. Yeah.
He would definitely agree.
Yeah, sure would. Sure would.
So you guys can check out that episode. And we got some of the shout-outs here for the Xbox 2 MVPs. We got D Big Fluffy Bunny, Resin Force, iMike Zero, Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Just James 93, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, 09C Mine, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Laser Wolf, Will Hernandez, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, RS Donks, Randall Thor 19, Silas, James Moore, Fantasticals, Katriox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Preview Bro King, Asa, T. N. Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Pat Rock, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Torpy, Briggs Country, Prof. JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you, guys.
Is it not Briggs County?
What? Biggs Country, my bad. Biggs Country, not Big County.
No, I thought it was county. Briggs County.
County. It says here country. Briggs Country.
Oh, okay.
So,
Briggs Country. Okay.
And Wolfgang KPZ, thank you guys for all the support.
Yeah, everyone in chat is noting that Zuckerberg, because I said earlier null Zucker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Zuckerberg is German for Sugar Mountain.
Okay.
Technically. So Mark Zuckerberg is Mark Sugar Mountain. There you go. Just thought you might want to know.
Interesting. I did not know that. But also, I gotta thank you, Jez, for 5 gifted memberships. Hopefully, the people who got that enjoy that. And Mr. Scarcely Relevant with another 5. So I matched it and gifted 5 as well. So that's 15. So there we go. Off to a good start. How was your week, bro? Everything going good?
My week was fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
I'm in a really good mood right now.
Yeah.
So
Google giveth, Google taketh, and then Google giveth, essentially.
Yeah, seriously, like Google's algorithm's schizophrenic sometimes, and it's just like this past week, you're like, oh yeah, Windows Central can have a shitload of traffic this week. It's like, oh okay, I'll take it. So I'm happy. When I'm in a bad mood, it's usually Google's fault.
Right.
But that's publishing for you, and I suppose it's similar for YouTubers as well. Sometimes you see like channels where it's like the algorithm will just punish them, man, for some reason. Like sometimes, like you see these YouTube channels that got like 10 million subscribers because they used to be hot shit, and then the algorithm's just like, not anymore. Bye. Similar in publishing.
I mean, yeah.
We all work for Google, really. But yeah, so I'm in a good mood. Played a lot of games. Did a bit of chilling. So yeah, I'm good. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing good. It's kind of it's a little cold, a A little cold here. Supposed to be pretty cold upcoming. Like right now, it's actually a fairly decent day. It's like 40 degrees outside, so odd. But lead up to this week was sort of cold, and then it's supposed to get like be 5 degrees a couple days next week, and then in the negatives overnight, which is always like, oh, you know. But other than that, I have just been continuing my journey with Metaphor ReFantazio. And I can now say I am at 72 hours in the game. And I thought about recording some footage last night, but last night, you know, this whole week basically has just been, I'm so far into the game, like any sort of thing I would take would be spoilers of, you know, new party members, especially last night and the last 2 nights because it was so story heavy. Remember last week when I said I was waiting for the moment in the game because like everything in the story has kind of been played straight so far. I told you I was waiting for the like moment where it would kick off into another gear or there would be a twist of some sort. Well, both of those things happened. There was a twist, and it kicked off into a different gear, story-wise. There was some kind of reveals and things that happened that was like, oh, okay. And now I'm literally in the stretch to the ending. Like, I think, you know, because there's the mechanic of days passing, and you can do a couple things per day. Like you could go on to a dungeon during the afternoon and then cook at the campfire and spend time with your people in the day. Like it gives you, like you can do something during the afternoon and then do something at night, usually to kind of increase your bonds with your party members, so you can unlock different archetypes or do certain things that would increase your like royal statistics or whatever it's called. I'm at the point now where the game's like, the final confrontation is 30 days away. So now I have like now in like 30 days to like what I presume to be is like the final boss fight. So
Do you want a medal?
Do I want a medal? Yeah, I want a
Do you want
medal.
a fucking medal?
Yeah.
I feel like you're gloating a little bit. I feel a bit like you're bragging.
Are you feeling like you're under attack right now? Do you feel personally attacked that I am enjoying and going to finish this Atlas game when you spent 2 years with Persona 5? Is this what's happening?
I feel like you're bragging. I feel like you're gloating, bro. I think you're I think you kind of want you want a medal. You feel like you achieved something and you're trying to rub it in everyone's faces, especially mine. Any truth to that, Rand?
I mean, maybe a smidge, maybe a small little smidge of truth, you know?
Yeah, well, I've been playing something I can't talk about.
Final Fantasy 6 this time, Final Fantasy 4. I beat 5 games this year, even though 4 of them were 10 hours long. Yeah, we know.
Excuse me, Final Fantasy 3 was at least 16 hours long.
At least.
Yeah, right. But I've been reviewing a game because I said that I kind of pulled back on reviewing games a lot when I was managing editor, but now I'm executive editor.
Okay.
I should have more time to actually play some fucking games here and there.
You should.
So I'm reviewing a game I can't talk about yet. Well, at least I think I can't talk about it, and I'm very excited to be able to talk about it probably on next week's show. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
I wonder what that game is. Do I know what the game is?
You know what it is. I've talked about it already.
I just don't remember then.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I have to give another shout out to Scarcely Relevant for dropping another 5 gifted memberships, as well as BT Maverick. So that's a whole bunch of gifted memberships today, and we'll get to the super chats in just a little bit. But yeah, I'm enjoying Metaphor. Hopefully I can maybe have it beat by next week, and I'll go more in depth about my feelings toward it, because maybe some of my expectations were inflated, I guess would be the right words to use. You're seeing all the review scores, seeing the nominations, not having played an Atlas game before. Like right now, if I were to like rate the game, where I would place it in my top, like the list of games I put out, like my top 10 for the year, maybe it would be 6 or 5, but I think my top 3 is pretty much set in stone, and Metaphor hasn't really done anything to be like, okay, you're better than Indiana Jones, or you're better, or I enjoyed you more than, say, Silent Hill 2 or Prince of Persia Lost Crown. And maybe it's because I haven't really played a turn-based JRPG, but it does some of the things turn-based that I would consider corny in these sort of games a little bit.
What's that? What would you consider corny?
Some of the dialogue sometimes can be a tad bit overly optimistic.
Are you playing it in American or Japanese?
I'm not talking about the voice acting, because the voice acting is really good. I'm talking about like the text dialogue.
Right.
Which,
fair enough.
I can't play that in Japanese because I don't read Japanese, right? So sometimes, but it's weird because I remember Final Fantasy 16 having some of this as well, and even Final Fantasy 7 Remake has a bit of this. And maybe I need to go back and play those to fully kind of, because I'll be sitting there and be like, oh, this kind of reminds me a little bit of these other games. And I know hope is supposed to be like a big thing with this game, and the main character is who he is. He wants to create this ideal world from this fantasy utopia and stuff, so he can kind of be a little bit overly, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, sometimes it can be
chirpy.
Yeah, but it doesn't really detract from the overall experience. It's just sometimes it's just like, oh, well, maybe I would have gone a different way with some of the dialogue. But
I chalk stuff like that up to maybe cultural differences. Like, if you watch like anime a lot, sometimes like what might sound corny in, I don't know, English, actually comes across okay. You watch it in Japanese, and I don't know, like, it's just a different vibe sometimes, I think. But I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't want them to change.
Some people in chat are saying basically anime is always like that, and maybe that's, I don't watch a lot of. I don't really watch anime or any of that stuff, so I don't really have a lot of experience firsthand with it. But I definitely, it doesn't like negatively, impact how I feel about the game, because I feel like the battles and the boss battles are pretty exciting. Trying to figure out like, okay, what are their weaknesses? How do I exploit it? What's my party setup going to be? Because there's so many different archetypes, and they have that mechanic where if you learn a spell from an archetype, you can then buy it and put it into a slot on a different one, so you can sort of build a better you can select an archetype and have a whole bunch of different spells from different things. So it's like, that is something I do enjoy about getting into a fight and then being like, okay, what's the best way to attack this? And like, the archetypes are just cool. And I like the idea of like the fantasy, this person's reading, inspiring like the present day stuff. And I gotta, like, Louise, the villain of the story, is actually kind of villainous. He's charismatic in a way where you kind of like him, but also at the same time, you kind of don't. Like, you want to see him fall, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, he's really... Those are usually the best villains. Like, you could do a villain that's just... like, just over-the-top villainous piece of shit. You just want to see him fail. But I always find, like, the coolest villains are the ones that maybe there's a kernel of truth in what they're saying, and they're very charismatic, and people follow them, but they're still, like, no, this is going to be a bad time if this guy gets any more power than he has. Like, those are always the ones I find most compelling. And it, like, as a big fantasy reader and science fiction reader that I am and stuff, you'll read stories that it's like, oh, the Dark Lord, and it's like, this, like, big, huge, evil thing from the dawn of creation. It's just like, there's no subtext to it, right? There's no, it's just, dude's evil, and you gotta win. And those stories can work when they're done well. But I always find like the villains that have a little bit of just a twinge of like what they're doing. They like their moral convictions are right, and sometimes you think like, oh, you know, he's got a point. But I don't know, like those villains kind of always stay with me, like the ones that are like that. So
yeah, there's when you're making a game that's basically good versus evil, I feel like the villains are like do a lot of heavy lifting, and this is something I've often noticed as a weakness in Ubisoft games. Like I can very rarely remember a Ubisoft villain, and the ones where Ubisoft does deliver a good villain are usually the games that are the most memorable. Like everyone talks about Vars, for example. I thought the villains in Far Cry 5 were very good.
yeah,
But the other games, the other Far Cry games, where it's like the villains maybe formulaic, and especially I find this especially true of some of the Assassin's Creed games at least. The villains kind of sort of fade away too much. I don't know, but yeah, I do want to get around to that eventually. But I've kind of banned myself from playing it until I do finish Persona. So
yeah. Well, we'll see what that.
that's
happens.
kind of one of my issues with Persona actually, is that Persona 5 rather, is that there's no, at least where I am currently in the story, there's no overarching villain. And even though like each palace's villain is interesting in their own right, there's no like overarching threat or overarching villain. Really, it's really just about the characters and their day-to-day lives and stuff. And I think like it's kind of nice and relaxing in that way that the stakes aren't so high. At the same time, I kind of feel like I have to be in the mood to play it, which is why it's taking me so long. I don't know. I could just be, I don't know, trying to overthink it here, but
our buddy Special Nick is here, and he says, "Hey, did you edit that video to remove our post-show chatting?"
I did for the one that's going live to the public. Yes.
Yeah, Jez said that basically nothing was said. Nick, like, right? You told me that nothing happened.
Yeah, there's like, my mic was muted. So for those who don't know, on the Xbox 2+1, we kind of had a situation where the mics were hot even after the show ended, and then Nick leaked a load of stuff.
Oh, tons of stuff.
So much stuff. But luckily, I managed to mute the mic before it went public. So you're safe, Nick. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, Nick leaked like the whole Xbox lineup for the next 3 years. We were like, "Damn, dude!" And everybody's listening.
Yeah.
And then he like told us like the we can't even mention it. It's just I was just like, Nick, holy crap!
Half-Life 3 launch day, stuff like that. You know, I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, how does Nick know all this shit, man? I don't know.
And he's leaker extraordinaire.
Oh
it's
man,
kind of funny.
Poor Nick.
And because we were sitting there, because I think I said something like, "Oh, you should write up this story." And then Nick was about to say something, and then I think I got a DM from somebody that was like, "You guys are still live," and I'm like, "Huh?"
Oops.
And then it was like, "We're still live." And Jez was like, "Yeah, they can hear us." It was like, "Oh shit."
Oh, a lot of people in chat are saying that Persona 5 does have an overarching villain. I just need to keep playing. So I guess Persona 5 is going to have that moment like you had in Metaphor where it changes gears, right?
Yeah,
or goes up a notch.
But then the thing is, like, it was played straight. It was played straight for 60 hours, and then finally, like, okay, the kind of the story kicked into the extra gear, and things started to be revealed, and twisty stuff started to happen. And it's like sometimes you expect 60 hours is a long time in a video game. You know what I mean?
Especially these days.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking like, oh, Persona 5 doesn't have a villain. It's like, no, Jez, it does, but you have to get to the 80-hour mark before there is one. And it's like, how many people make it that way?
The game's fun, right? And if the payload is good, then that's fine. You know, I've waited that long for an epic payload in other games, so I'm gonna stick with it. I guess for me, it's just hard because this is my first Persona game, really. So I mean, I did own Persona 3 and 4 on PlayStation 2 back in the day, but I never played them. I never got around to it for some reason. And then I was like, I was just so addicted to Unreal Tournament back then. But yeah, I'll get around to them eventually.
Yes, you probably will.
Yes.
Let me get to a couple super chats here. We have Frosty with the $4.99. Hey guys, I was wondering if Xbox is considering adding 5G capabilities to the rumored handheld. It makes a lot of sense to add it, but is it too costly?
Yeah, that's the question. Like LTE modems and shit that you would add to a device like that, they can be pricey, right? So what they would most likely do if they were going to do it, they'd do an LTE version that was separate and maybe like however many dollars more expensive for people who really want it. Like they do the Surface Pro with LTE model that's separate from the Wi-Fi model. So while I think it's possible, I also wonder if there'd be enough demand for Microsoft to justify doing it. I think for me, if it was me in charge, I'd be like, yeah, make it, but just make so many units, so for people who want it, and then gauge the interest from there, right? But it's always complicated when you're ordering stock of hardware, because if you overstock, it can be absolutely devastating on your margins. But if you understock, then it's like another issue. I suppose in that scenario, you'd rather understock, right? But I'll talk to people about it and see what the thought process is on it. One thing, like questions like this, I find that we do end up getting a lot of answers when I go to events like Summer Game Fest and stuff. Like Paris in the chat over there, and hi to Paris. And Paris knows this. When we go to events like Summer Game Fest and catch up with Microsoft people and stuff like that, you can get like a lot of context on things like why they would or wouldn't do things like LTE. But I think it's a good show, and I think it's something I would personally go for that. As a cloud guy, I know Rand wouldn't go for it though. Rand doesn't like cloud. Rand hates technology. He hates the future.
I mean, I don't really have a reason to even try cloud, so maybe
I'm more of a Barrett guy.
Maybe one day I'll. No, I was always a cloud guy. Barrett was cool, but cloud was. Well, I mean, cloud wasn't even really much of a character now, was he? Really?
I suppose not. Like, I mean, he's quiet in the modern iterations of Final Fantasy VII, but it was like double quiet brooding in the original.
Yeah.
Man, I love Final Fantasy VII, dude. Love that game.
Yeah, we got Rave Damos with the 2. Add an eSIM card. Windows Phone is back, baby. eSIM card to the handheld.
Wait, what? Say that again.
No, Rave Damos says add an eSIM card. Windows Phone is back, baby.
Yes. eSIM. I mean, I suppose I don't know. Do you still need a modem with eSIM? I think you kind of do, right? eSIM being like electronic SIM cards. I don't have any experience with eSIM. But maybe that could do it,
Yeah. Scarcely Relevant member for 58 months says shout out this month is going to Special Nick and his fantastic appearance on Xbox 2+1 this week. Yeah, Nick was a great guest. We had a lot of fun talking.
Yeah, Nick's a natural born radio dude.
Yeah.
He's got a face for radio.
Oh, a voice for radio. Got a face for radio. It was funny because he was like, "We're not using cameras, right?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "You're denying this face to the people?" I'm like, "I guess so." Like,
when are you getting on camera, Rad?
I don't know, some point this year. At some point.
See, you're going at me about complete persona, but you've got your own procrastinatory narrative going down here with the whole camera thing, right?
Yeah. That is true.
So I don't like getting on camera either. Like I have a really bad camera setup right now. Like it's like a low down, and nobody likes a low angle camera shot, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Solid Theater says in chat, we saw enough of Nick's face on the Halo TV show. It's a good point.
And his cheeks too, to last us a lifetime.
It's so weird how it looked just like Nick.
I mean, yeah. If you would have said, "Hey, that's my brother," or "That's my dad," I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, you're resembling." Dude, maybe all Australians look that similar.
Is he Australian?
I don't know. I don't think so. That's too good. I do have to. I just wanted to bring it up because I saw people talking about it a little bit, but I've seen people really enjoyed the Dark Rand appearance last week in the show, Jez.
Yeah. I got a load of messages about that.
Yeah, I didn't. It's weird because I didn't. The people send you messages. I didn't really get any. You said,
Well, I know you're not really on social, I think.
yeah, that's true. I mean,
People saying stuff like, we need more Dark Rand, etc.
yeah, I mean, Colt says that all the time. So's Gaz. Like, you need to bring Dark Rand out more. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
Gaz
like,
cracks me up, man.
Yeah, Gaz has been
Gaz,
going
Gaz,
off.
sometimes I wake up in the morning because I got a weird sleep cycle because I often work on US West Coast hours. So sometimes I wake up at like 3 in the afternoon if I've like had a meeting with sources or whatever in the middle of the night.
Sources?
And sources, yeah. And then I'll wake up and look at WhatsApp and then I got like a bunch of voice messages from Gaz absolutely popping off about something or someone or some drama.
That is 100% true.
With his London accent. So, oh man, Gaz has got all the riz, man. He's got all the riz. That dude is so fucking funny. So fucking funny.
Yeah, I mean it's always fun to bring out Dark Rant sometimes, but you know sometimes that's just for entertainment purposes, the overtop nature. But you know, I don't know. Like I just see someone in chat that's being like, "You guys don't ever do this or whatever," and I'm just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Like, if you listen to this show, all the things that are going on. But yeah, I mean, there's always a time and a place. If Dark Rand came out all the time, you'd all get sick of it. You know, but it's special appearances that make it matter the most. But we'll see what happens.
Dark Rand saves gaming, says Captain Crunch.
Dark Rand saves gaming. Yeah. We got Timothy Struble with the 10. Jez, with Jason Ronald saying they want to combine Xbox and Windows in a future Xbox, is this a good idea? I personally hate where Windows 11 is going. I'm not enthused about Copilot and AI in my OS.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, I kind of feel like they have no choice because if Meta or Musk or Google or someone figures out an application for AI that absolutely becomes necessary, and Microsoft's just like, this is dumb, we're not going to do it, people don't like it. I think that's negligent. I think that's technologically negligent. So while it is annoying, you have to appreciate like why they're doing it because even if it's not a thing today, it could be a thing in the next, year or 2 or 5 years or whatever it is. So on the one hand, yes, but also, even if you don't like that stuff, I would trust the Xbox team with Windows more than the Windows team. I honestly think like when it comes to Xbox's influence on Windows, I think that's only a positive thing. And making things better for gamers. So like things like being able to control the whole user UI with the controller, like even stuff like user account control, and better mod support for Xbox and the cross-pollination of features. I think but obviously execution is key, right? Execution is fucking key. So it has to be good. So I think having healthy skepticism is probably the best route forward, and they know they've got a laser microscope on them when it comes to changing things in Windows. Do you remember how much mainstream drama Windows 8 generated when they changed the start menu? It was wild, man.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah. They changed the start menu and like you had everyone bitching and moaning and talk show hosts talking about it and all kinds of stuff. So I think they are sort of cognizant of the fact they can't fuck too much with what Windows is, Billions of people use that shit.
And they skipped Windows 9, right? And went to 10?
I can't remember. They gave a compelling reason for that, but I can't remember what it was.
One of them, and I want to say it was 9. And went
yeah,
right
it was
10.
It was 9. It was 9, yeah.
So I'm trying to remember, like before I bought this new PC that came with Windows 11, I think I was on Windows 8, but
Yeah, the reason they did that was because of Windows 95 and 98 or something.
Oh yeah.
Something like that. Because they'd used the 9 before. And there was some logic behind it. Yeah, Mazer Tech said 9 would have messed up 95 and 98 backwards compatible code.
Microsoft and logic and naming things? Please. Please.
Yeah, my biggest article of the month so far is me clowning on their rebrand of Microsoft 365. Because they've rebranded Microsoft 365, which is Office. They've rebranded it to Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is the worst fucking branding exercise I've ever seen since Jaguar rebranded its cars and shit. Oh man.
I mean, I don't know. The Xbox One name was pretty fucking awful. When, you're sitting there watching the reveal and it's just...
Yeah, but it's like...
it's Xbox One. It's like, what?
Yeah, they were branding everything one, though. That you got, you had OneDrive, you had OneNote.
I understand why it was named one input or whatever the hell, but it just didn't make any sense. And now because of it, well, essentially because of the 360, right? Like, what was the reasoning? Because they didn't want to be a number behind PlayStation because that would make it seem like it's lesser than. So you couldn't call it Xbox 2 because PlayStation was on the third one. So they were worried that perception would be that it's less than...
Xbox is behind. So
it's like, okay, we'll just go to 360. We're way better than the PS3. And then it's like, well, where do you go from there? Remember, like, the 720? Did you go to this? It's like the 1080? No, we're going to go Xbox One. And it's like, okay, well, where do you go from the Xbox One? Xbox Series X and S, right? What?
Yeah. I do. What are they going to do next, though? Like, I said there was that whole Xbox Prime rumor, right? Which isn't true, by the way. Yeah. So it's like, oh man, I'm nervous. Like, I suppose like some people are worried about what Xbox is going to do with PC stuff in the next console. I'm just worried about what they're going to name the motherfucker.
Yeah,
they're gonna come up with like the weirdest branding stuff, like imaginable.
Yeah, I
probably.
mean, what do you do? Do you keep the series moniker and just add on different units, like the Xbox Series H,
X2?
Right? Do you call the handheld the Xbox Series H for handheld, or the Xbox Series G for Go or something? Do you call the next console the Xbox Series X2? Do you move away from the naming convention entirely because the hardware isn't selling so good, and maybe there's some bad juju effect, whatever you want to call it. Like, maybe you just need to away from that naming convention quickly as possible and call it something else as like a fresh restart. Like, what do you do? And they're probably having millions of people, or not millions of people that they're paying millions of dollars to and focus testing these things. Millions of people they're paying nothing to now. People that get paid millions of dollars to come up to it, which is why I'm not like the Xbox Prime name itself.
I don't hate that. Actually,
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it. It's all right. It's all right.
Look at Tom Henderson in chat saying Microsoft's console is what they'll call it. Yeah, they'll get rid of the Xbox and call it Microsoft console.
It'll be called Microsoft Gaming Device 365 Copilot.
It'll be called the Microsoft Console Copilot.
Man,
that'll be what it's called.
How would you feel if they did keep it series? Like, literally just call it Xbox Series X and then Xbox Series Z and then Xbox Series G or something like that.
I would be.
How would you feel about that?
Waiting for the articles from the publications talking about how moms and dads and kids will be confused about which ones to buy. Because remember, that was a big thing. Nobody's going to be able to determine the difference between an Xbox One S and an Xbox Series S.
Well, I did actually get at least a couple of messages from people who bought the wrong console over Christmas. They bought Xbox One S instead of Series X, Series S, and stuff like that. But I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know what they're gonna go with. Maybe you just go all the way back to the beginning and call it Xbox, and just that. But maybe that's too. I don't know. Maybe call it the Xbox 7 or Xbox 6. I don't know.
The thing is that can't. So I was thinking, did they call it the Xbox 7 and leapfrog PlayStation? But then it's like people will associate with Windows 7, so you kind of can't do that.
You know what it's going to be called? The Xbox.
You can call it
Xbox Copilot.
Xbox Copilot, yeah. God, maybe. I know that Copilot integration is coming to Xbox in the future. By the way.
Oh, wonderful! Just exactly what everybody needed. Copilot in your Xbox. It's amazing.
it's going to be stuff like, how do I solve this puzzle? And then it steals content from one of Windows Central's guides, or something like that, possibly. Or it pulls up one of Macca's videos, like, and lets you watch Macca's stuff. So it's with that in mind that, like, because I have heard this, right? They prototyped a Copilot integration on Xbox where it would pull up a YouTube video from a relevant creator. So like Macca, for example. Macca does lots of Xbox and gaming guides, right? So like, say for example, you're stuck on a puzzle in the game, you say to Copilot, how do I do this? And it's like, oh, watch this video from Macca. And then Macca's video comes up. So I was thinking from that, I was thinking, well, if they're prototyping that, does that mean they're going to bring back picture-in-picture or something like that? Or is that going to be something for next gen only? Because one of the issues with Copilot on this current system is that ain't enough RAM, baby. So
it's kind of like what PlayStation has with their hint system. That you need to be subscribed to PlayStation Plus. They sort of have like hints.
Oh, they got a hint system?
Yeah, it's like sometimes I never used it because I'm not subscribed to PlayStation Plus. Because what's the point?
Cloud saves.
Yeah, but I have no reason to use cloud saves on PlayStation, and I don't.
Do they not have? Can you take your PlayStation cloud saves to the PC versions, like on Xbox?
I don't know. Someone else would have to answer that.
Like, can I play Helldivers on PC with the same account? I would hope so.
I mean,
anyway,
wasn't there the whole kerfuffle about integrating the PlayStation ID thing? I would assume if you signed in on, it would work. I don't know.
Oh, that's
no. People
weird.
Are saying no, that they tried recently and can't. So
that'd drive me crazy. I really we all clown on Xbox, but there's so many features on Xbox like cloud saves and taking your game to other devices. I take that shit for granted.
I would do. It's like magic.
Yeah.
You always say, like, because you're like, I'm playing this game on my Xbox, then I'm laying in bed playing it on my phone or whatever, or one of your many handhelds, and then going back and playing it on PC, and it's all just works.
Yeah.
But it actually works. Right?
I take that shit for granted, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the benefits of the Xbox ecosystem, quote unquote, is the ability to take those saves and then play the game wherever you really want to play them. And it's just a matter of getting third parties on board. Because that really does seem like the inevitable future that Xbox is trying to establish, where you make a purchase within the ecosystem, whether it's on cloud, whether it's on the LG TV or on your PC or on whatever consoles there are or the handhelds, and
Universal
you
X
can
Cloud.
play the game. You can play the game and the saves on any of these devices. And the stickler is there's 7,000 games on the Xbox console, and the vast majority of those aren't on their own Windows store. So. And there's not that many on cloud at this point in time, so it's like,
no,
you can see the vision that they want to get to. It's just, will they get to it? Like, will they be able to fully realize all that in the future? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like more and more devs are coming in day one. I mean, Atlas is there day one, and Square Enix seems to be there day one now. Square Enix went from like not supporting the platform to being like arguably the best place to play Final Fantasy games, to be honest.
Don't say that now.
I mean, it's the only platform where I can play Final Fantasy classic games on my phone with touch controls and do all of that with a single save file.
Since it has the pixel remaster, so it's got 1 through 6.
1 through 6.
It has 13.
7.
It has all the
7.
Well, hold on.
7,
so it's got
7,
13
8,
through. It's got 13, 13.2, and Lightning Returns through back compat, which were upgraded using the Hochi method, so it looks
4K,
good.
yeah.
4K it has
60.
14. It has 15. The only ones that was missing is 16, and 7 Remake and 7 Rebirth, and 11. But like 11's not on any modern console at all right now. But I don't think people are gonna have to wait long for Final Fantasy 16. And the wait for Final Fantasy 7 and Remake and Rebirth actually not going to be that long either. So Yeah. Some might say
Yeah.
we might be playing Final Fantasy 16 sometime this month.
Ah.
Later this month on Xbox.
Ooh, that'd be
You
cool.
know? People say that, but so yeah, you'd be like all the Final Fantasy games. Do you remember when I recall one of the XOs, it was like XO 19 maybe, where they made that big deal of all the Final Fantasy games coming to Game Pass. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do remember
And
that.
then like all their recent releases never, like Forspoken and the Foam Stars and the all of a sudden it was like, we're coming to bring everything to Game Pass, and then like the next year it was like, oh, but all of our future games ain't coming. It was such an odd thing.
Yeah, one day I'll talk
Get to
about
the
what I know
truth.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I'll
get-
talk about what I know about that
Get to the
situation.
truth of that situation. Forspoken, I
But-
guess. I wonder because that the 2-year console exclusivity is coming up this month. But
Are you interested in playing that?
No, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't play it if it did come, but the thing is, I would imagine that franchise has no future, so what's the point in porting it to anything else?
It is on UWP though, so
It was on the
in
Windows Store
theory-
launch. They could.
Yeah, in theory, it should just work on Xbox if they ported it properly to the Microsoft Store.
I don't know if anybody in chat knows what was the date in the Forspoken trailer, because it was 2 years. I don't know. Maybe it would be like, maybe it's this week or the upcoming week, but I just don't see the benefit for Square. That game didn't sell well, and I doubt they have plans. And plus, I think the studio closed, or they merged.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
They
think
closed?
the studio that made
Oh
it
yeah, they merged it.
with. So, not saying like, okay, well, who would actually do the port, but I think it's just one of those things when we talk about Xbox and Xbox putting their games everywhere else, right? Like whatever. You damn well know one of the games that they're not going to put everywhere else is Redfall because it has no future. There's no point spending any money on porting Redfall to Switch 2 and the PS5, even though they should, just so everybody can share the sandwich that game was. It'd be like, but they're not going to because it doesn't make any sense. All right, let me see. We got a couple other super chats here to get through. We have Coder Games with the $4.99. Apologies to Matt Booty. We should have been questioning Herman Host's leadership all along.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this at length when we get to that segment, but for quite some time, there's been a lot of people that have questioned Matt Booty's leadership and said that Xbox mismanages their studios. That's been a key point of contention for years now, is that Xbox doesn't know what they're doing with their studios and mismanages them. Sometimes the studios need a heavy hand, and sometimes studios just need to be left alone. And Xbox doesn't know which studios need which, right? Some studios, you can let them do whatever they want, and they'll continue to produce results. Other studios you need to be firm with. They need that guiding hand, right? And PlayStation, because of its, Game of the Award-winning games from last generation and the high quality reviews and Metacritic of a lot of their franchises and stuff, people were like, this is the pinnacle of what game development is. When you get to this generation, you hear about, hey, PlayStation's actually like pivoting to live service because they want some of that cash, because they didn't bother to do any multiplayer stuff the previous generation. They were like, we're going to let the third parties handle this stuff, and we're going to focus on single player. But what ended up happening is that single players got really expensive to make, and suddenly the returns on those games are starting to kind of dry up, be a little minuscule. Oh, and because we let those multiplayer games by third parties, they were making them, they're reaping all the rewards. Fortnite is making billions, and Warzone's doing what it does for Call of Duty and Apex Legends and all these games. Why don't we have our own live service? Why don't we have our own FIFA Ultimate Team or Madden where we can just sit back and just rake in the cash? Even though they sort of have that with MLB The Show, but it's baseball at the end of the day, right? It only really kind of sales potential is only really here in the States. Nobody cares about baseball overseas, right? And so it's
baseball's
like, all right,
quite popular in Japan, actually.
no, it is. Yeah, it is popular in Japan, but like continental Europe, not so much.
No, not so much.
So it's like we're going to, PlayStation. We're gonna still do our single player stuff, but we got 12 live service games coming for you, baby. We're gonna attack that mountain. We're gonna get something that works. We're gonna make this money, and then here we are, 5 years after sort of all this stuff, and PlayStation has more canceled games than they have announced games for the future. And I think out of their 12 live service announcements or live service projects that they said they were doing, I think 8 of them have been canceled. You want to talk about mismanagement? If you're going to give Xbox shit for perceived issues regarding how they manage some of their studios and some of the why it's taken a long time to get things up and all that stuff, but then if you're not also willing to be like, yo, what's going on at PlayStation is pretty brutal, I don't know what to tell you, because you can dole out blame. Is it Jim Ryan? I mean, he's the one that set the plan in motion. Was Jim Ryan really pushed out the door instead of walking out on his own 2 feet? Because it really does seem like the initiative that him and Herman Hulse started has gone up in smoke. Like, it's pretty awful. And we'll talk about that later. But it's just funny that Xbox has to carry the cross of the scalebound cancellation for years. People still talk about that cancellation.
Yeah.
When it happened in 2017, so what is that? 8 years ago. It still comes up. And granted, it was a high-profile cancellation because it showed up at E3 twice. And I'm sure there are tons of games that are canceled at publishers all the time that you never hear about because game development is as crazy as it is and stuff just doesn't happen, or you don't believe in a project anymore, so it gets canceled. And we've seen how many studios recently get shut down or their projects don't have any more funding because shit changes. But holy crap, it's pretty awful. I mean, I don't know. Like, it certainly seems like the internal workings at PlayStation with what they were doing. It honestly looks like a disaster.
Yeah, it's not a good look from looking from the outside, but there's a lot of extraneating. That's not a word. What do you fucking call it, man?
Extraneous?
Extenuating
circumstances?
Yes, that word, that you all know what I mean, but I can't find it right now. There's a lot of those kind of circumstances, and we'll talk about it more in a minute.
Yeah. Supernova with
Super
the 2
chats.
says, huge ooh-woo for Rand. Okay. Agitator with the $9.99. Hey, Rand and Jez, how would you describe the current friendship relationship between Microsoft and Nintendo? Could we see some future collaborations or deals between them now that the Switch 2 is in play? Go ahead.
You're going to see a huge amount of support from Xbox on Switch 2.
Yeah.
A huge amount. There's going to be a lot of games being ported to Switch 2 from Xbox, both back catalog and upcoming games too. In terms of partnership, like, I see a lot of people saying like, oh, they're going to put Game Pass on Switch 2. They ain't going to do that because Nintendo wants you to buy their versions of the games. They don't want you playing on Game Pass. They want you paying for games in their ecosystem. They want you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online to get their, like, because they got all the backwards compatible games, the classic games in their subscription service, right? So, well, I don't think you're going to see like any sort of huge pervasive partnership. One thing I do think that Nintendo might be a little bit more open to than PlayStation is having this sort of, because we've got this rumor of Microsoft making a cross-platform UI. I think Nintendo might be more open to that, where it's like you sign into an Xbox game on Switch, and you get your Xbox stuff, cloud saves, your experiences, because they were there. They were there for that with other games like Minecraft Dungeons, right? And also I think Ori had it as well, unless I'm misremembering. But so I do think like they'll be more open to maybe integration with Xbox a little bit more than PlayStation will be. But I don't think you're going to see like Mario on Xbox, for example.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Microsoft's all about revenue right now. It's all about revenue and
it's all about margins.
Margins, and those margins will subsidize hardware for us who want it, you know?
Yeah, I saw a report from somebody who was like, noted game leaker says Microsoft is going to have supporting the Switch with a lot of games. It's like, yeah, shocker. One of the biggest publisher in the world. I don't know. I saw somebody say, it was like Mr. Rebs was quoting some game leaker. It was like, Microsoft's really going to support the Switch 2 strongly with maybe a ton of games. And it's like, yeah, the largest publisher in the world going to support the Switch 2 with a whole bunch of shit? Yeah, of course they are. Like, this isn't a shocking thing, you know?
No.
It's like, you're probably going to see Sea of Thieves, and they're going to have support for the games that are already on the Switch, probably with updates to, like, 4K or whatever the system can do, and
I don't think it's going to be doing 4K.
Well, whatever it can do. Whatever upscaling stuff it can do, and you'll see a whole bunch of other announcements. Probably Outer Worlds 2 will get announced for it. Doom: The Dark Ages probably get announced for it as well. Honestly, that's also where I expect Halo Master Chief Collection to get announced for the Switch. We'll talk, but they're doing some direct on like April 2nd, so I think you'll see a whole bunch of announcements. Microsoft's probably going to have like a whole slew of stuff for them.
I'm going to be back in Britain for that then. So that should be a good show. You know, because remember, Rand, Nintendo Switch 2 is an Xbox, actually.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, man. I heard it's an Xbox.
Keyshawn Thompson, member for 37 months, says 37 months with you guys. Thank you very much. Fantasticals, member for 51 months, says, before they announced the series consoles, I was certain Microsoft would call the next Xbox Ultimate. They loved the word Ultimate at some point. Yeah, they sure did. They still love the word Ultimate.
Gears Ultimate.
They love the word edition. Elite as well. Remember, because the 360 had the Elite console? So
yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? If you call it Ultimate, that kind of means the last one. So I think they won't call it Xbox Ultimate. Unless it is the last one. Spooky. I don't think they'll call it Ultimate. But we'll see.
Yeah, maybe they just call... Yeah. Miguel says, are all games on the Dev Direct day one on Game Pass? I don't think so, or I don't know.
I don't think necessarily there will be. No.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Whittius with the 5 says, what if Microsoft called the new console Xbox 2 and put a copyright claim on the podcast name? Oh, snap. Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be fun.
We just would have to change it to the XB2, right? Just get rid of the words.
I mean, pretty much already did that.
Well, if you look, like, Spotify and other places, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the official name of the show in terms of officiality is XB2, like on all the merch and stuff like that. Which people do buy the merch, by the way, Rand. I was surprised to discover recently. Thanks for that.
I didn't even know we had merch.
Yeah, we have merch. It's on your fucking YouTube channel.
I don't even know. I mean, I think somebody asked me, he's like, you have merch? And I'm like, I have no idea. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Sean LeBrie made us some merch, man. God damn.
Great. Sean LeBrie is amazing. I love Sean LeBrie, but I didn't know.
Yeah, we got merch. I haven't looked at the account for a while. But so every now and then I get an email. Someone bought a mug. XB2 mug.
Awesome. Enjoy that mug. Our buddy Sin Vendetta with the $9.99. He says, Rand and Jez, do you think Microsoft will still do the 2 SKU approach for next generation, but if one is a traditional powerful console and the other is an Xbox handheld? I mean, that's been my line of thinking for a while now. That you're going to have the console and you're going to have the handheld.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it'll go.
Yeah. Supernova.
Traditional Series X and a handheld with dock capabilities.
Yeah. Supernova. What the F is happening with Everwild? Development's happening. I mean,
It's in development. I haven't heard that it's been cancelled or anything like that. The last I heard, which was a few months ago now, I suppose, was that they've nailed the gameplay loop and now they're just working on it and development's going well. That's the last thing I heard like a few months ago. I think when was I told that? Quite a while ago now.
Well, I mean, they did put out their Christmas card with a screenshot of Everwild, so...
Yeah, so yeah. If I had to guess, and this is a pure guess, not a leak or anything, this is pure speculation, I think we see that at the showcase in June.
I think it's about time. You know?
Yeah.
It's funny, it's just like when they revealed the game originally, it was like, we have no clue what this game is, and then it just disappeared, and they rebooted it, and, you know, there's rumors about what it possibly is now, but yeah, I mean, the fact that they use their Christmas card for it when they have Sea of Thieves, it kind of does be like, okay, well, we'll get a re-reveal of Everwild this year, and then maybe it comes out in 2026. You know, so scarcely relevant with the 5. Calling a spade, though, even if Sony pivots to single player now, we have a 3-year wait and the media running cover for PlayStation. Yeah, some of those decisions it just doesn't make any sense. Like who thought telling Bluepoint to make a live service God of War game was the answer?
That's pure insanity.
Like, who greenlit this? Herman Holst? If it was you, what are you thinking, bruh? Seriously. And I know, like, when people think, oh, like, you know, what does a live service God of War game look like? It's, you know, you just spend $20 for a new axe skin or something. And I would imagine a live service God of War would be similar into, like, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? Where there was, like, expansions and updates and quests that were sort of added all through over time. You know, but people think of when people think live service, their mind immediately goes to Fortnite and Warzone and those games that have seasons, that have battle passes, and all that stuff. But, you know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla was a live service game because it had updates all the time and you know, it had all these different expansions and made all this money and people played it for years. That's probably what they're going for. But it's like, dude, you took a studio whose like resume consisted of making the best remakes of old IP around, and you're like, yeah, make a God of War game, but we're gonna live service it up.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, some IPs like make sense as live service. Like I think I really wanted to see what a Last of Us live service game would have looked like.
Sure.
Obviously, like I think it probably needed more investment to really hit the quality bar that I think people would have expected from it. Like it couldn't have just been shitty. You know, like I don't think Sony could stomach a Fallout 76 situation, right? Where it's like the game releases poor and then gets better over time. I think in their mind, they need to be great out of the gate. But I think like to really nail live service out of the gate day one, you really need like absolute masses of investment. Like Final Fantasy 14 is a great case study for. I mean, people talk about like things like No Man's Sky or Sea of Thieves being like recent examples of games that launched kind of weak and then were developed over time and became something good, like Fallout 76 as well. But really, the ultimate example of this is Final Fantasy 14. Like Final Fantasy 14 went from like being arguably one of the worst games of its era, you know, absolute total misfire, to being like a legitimate competitor to World of Warcraft. But the sheer volume of investment to get it there, it was astronomical. You know, they basically had to remake the entire game. But they did it and they got it there, and now it's like one of Square Enix's like biggest bright spots, you know, for the company, which is awesome. So I think Sony maybe if Sony wants to go down this route, I think what they should do is like just accept that like maybe the game isn't going to be great out of the gate, and maybe pick some franchises that maybe they're not so worried about messing up. So for example, I often think Days Gone would be a good franchise for a live service. You know, zombie apocalypse games. Project Zomboid is super hot right now, and we've got State of Decay coming out from Microsoft. Like, wouldn't Days Gone translate well to some kind of service game? Personally, I think it would. You know, and also the franchise doesn't have like you can't fuck that. The franchise is dead, so you can't fuck it up. Is what my point is. But people know what it is and they know what to expect. The zombie game. So I think if you want to learn the ropes of live ops and stuff like that from an organizational perspective, go with some franchises that are dead or franchises that don't carry as much risk, but also aren't completely new. Like you could redeem Days Gone if you made a really great live service out of it. You know, that's what I think they should do. But hey ho, maybe investing in games like Foam Stars is the better play.
Yeah.
Will we get Foam Stars on Xbox?
No, I think they said that they ended all updates for the game. So what would be the
really?
point? Yeah.
Oh man,
I know.
I really wanted to play that, bro.
I'm sure you did. I don't think the game even came to PC. I think it was just a PlayStation exclusive. I don't understand why. Yeah,
that is pure insanity.
I mean,
bro.
You'd have to look, and maybe somebody in chat will tell us. But I don't think that game came to PC. It was just a PS4, PS5 exclusive, and nobody cared. And then they did what they normally do. They put it in PlayStation Plus for a month, and then eventually, you know, like it just died because nobody cares. You know,
I'm sad about this.
Time is a limiting factor. People forget about this. Like everybody wants you to play their thing all the time, every day. But there's only so much time, and there's the audience is only so many people. There's only so much that like you could realistically expect, and it's like Foam Stars, a live service game, but we're gonna cap it to a single console, and it's like, well, it's almost like, by the way, Sony, we'll give you the Final Fantasy games, but you also have to take Foam Stars. Pay us for Foam Stars too, you know. But yeah, let's see. We got Mr. Don Otaku, Mr. Nintendo himself, says PlayStation can't make multiplayer games to save their lives, and Xbox tends to underdeliver their single player games. Nintendo's the only one who does both flawlessly. See, of course. Somehow he turns this.
Man.
He turns this into a Nintendo thing, of course.
Bro, whenever I try and play Smash Brothers online, it's like I've traveled back in time to dial up fucking multiplayer games. So miss me with that bullshit about Nintendo nailing multiplayer games. Let me know when they've actually upgraded their server infrastructure beyond 28 kilobytes per second. You know, Nintendo's live service games are not good. They are laggy pieces of shit.
Don Otaku's gonna say something about it being like, you're supposed to play it in local co-op, you know, or something,
Local co-op?
Yeah,
I ain't got no friends, bro.
Something like that.
No friends, bro.
They'll make excuses for Nintendo like they always do, of course. You know?
Oh man. Everyone knows like PC and Xbox gamers don't have friends. I need that broadband, dude. I need that good server technology. I love that like Capcom, when Capcom worked on Monster Hunter Rise as a Nintendo Switch exclusive, Capcom said something in an interview, and I'm paraphrasing, it was like, we had to work with Nintendo to upgrade their entire server infrastructure to support Monster Hunter Rise. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Nintendo. What are you doing? But I think they'll get it in the end, but no. And also Pokemon Unite is a pay-to-win hellscape. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, see, Don says that's a tech issue, not a game issue, and that people say games as a service God of War is a bad idea, but expand God of War Valhalla DLC and make it multiplayer, profit, or take classic God of War and make it a Diablo-style ARPG.
Ooh,
and they could do that.
Maybe.
Like top-down God of War, old school, make it Diablo. But then, you also got to...
Yeah.
You got to think about what your studio's good at. Is that something that Blue Point would be good at? But
they tried to make Darksiders a Diablo clone, and it was just a huge flop.
Yeah, but also, what happens if you put out a live service version of one of your premier IPs and it just sucks? Because it's like if you put out Bluepoint puts out this God of War game, and let's just say it's bad because it's not the Sony Santa Monica team on it. So does then that affect the next God of War game because you just put out something that was awful and it really had a negative effect on like the main franchise? You got to think about that too.
I think like I think that's a really good point, Rand, because, for example, Fallout 76, even though it did sort of it did rebuild the IP over time, and also like the Fallout TV show brought back a lot of positive goodwill. Fallout 76 was hugely damaging to Bethesda's brand.
Yeah,
massively
catastrophically damaging too.
Catastrophically
not only
damaging.
that, but Wolfenstein Youngblood. There's a reason Bethesda was looking to sell after those flops.
Yeah. So like those are good examples of how you can just completely damage your company by releasing crap, which is why again I say, you know, do it with something like Days Gone, which doesn't necessarily have anything to lose, you know? Use that as your platform for learning the ropes. Don't risk something like God of War and release something like trash, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that Horizon Lego game, I don't think that's done anything positive for the Horizon brand.
No, I don't think anybody cared about that game, and it sort of seems like the only reason that game existed is because Herman Hulst is in charge, and he just happened to run that studio, so he has this love affair with Horizon as a franchise. So it's like, let's give them the Lego treatment when you could, you know, maybe point. But it's I don't think.
Well, Astrobot would make way more sense for a Lego game. I don't know.
We got the Winter Soldier with the $5. Hey guys, this is probably a long shot, but do you think Sony would decide to port their Marvel games to Xbox and Switch due to licensing and dev costs? I doubt it, unless Marvel demanded it to happen. Because that's kind of what happened with MLB. Was like they were negotiating the license, and MLB wanted the game in more places, which is what happened. And I think if Lego Horizon does come to Xbox, which some rumors suggest it will, it'll be because Lego wants it to be. I think if like Spider-Man or like any of those games came to Xbox, it'd be because Marvel told them to, not necessarily because Sony wants them to. It'll be like, no, Marvel's gonna be like, no, we want those there. We want more money. We want more eyes on it. Put it on these platforms.
Yeah. I mean, there is like this there is the hard cash issue where Disney, like, they want a lot of money for that IP. They want to charge companies a lot of money. You know, which is why EA opted out of Battlefront 3. Even though I think Battlefront 3 could have cleaned up. You know, Battlefront 2 became this like really good game in the end. But EA fucked it up with their greed initially. And a lot of that Battlefront community, I think they would love to come across for Battlefront 3, and it's like a new slate, right? But EA was like, why should we pay Disney to grow their IP, you know? And that's kind of the argument, essentially. Like, Sony is paying Disney Spider-Man money to grow their Spider-Man IP, and Sony competes with Disney in the movie space. So it is a bit of a contentious one, I would think. But at the same time, it's clearly a huge system seller. But will it come to Xbox? I think Sony's current business model revolves around killing Xbox, not helping it. So they're playing chicken.
Eat Miser with the 5 says, when is Xbox going to stop being scrappy with marketing its games? Zero avowed stuff in sight, with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 ready to eat its lunch. Concerning. Well, sir.
That's a good point.
Microsoft feels like they don't really have to market games like that because Game Pass will do all the marketing for it. That's 100% how they feel. And they'll probably also feel like it's not worth, like they'll market the big games. So like Doom will get a massive marketing push, and Fable will get a massive marketing push, and Gears Z-Day would get one and stuff. But for some games that are would be considered, maybe because of budget reasons, of like the games aren't on that level, Microsoft really doesn't do a lot of marketing for those type of games. They just don't. They think like Game Pass will spread the word and people will play it and the reviews will be out, and they don't need to do traditional marketing. At least that's what they think, because we are a month away from Avowed, and is it one of those games that they're going to market heavily? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, even though we've seen trailers for the game, we've seen a dev direct dedicated to it. There was previews written recently. They've done their stuff, but I don't know in traditional marketing sense if you'll see like commercials on YouTube. Maybe you will closer to release. When it's like, hey, available now, or Avowed coming soon or something. But sometimes this is what sort of happens to, I don't want to use the term lesser release, but I think there's clearly a pecking order of games that Microsoft will spend its marketing muscle on, and that's when you talk about this year, and when me and Nate the Hate laid out Xbox's roadmap for the year and potentially said, barring a Grand Theft Auto bomb at the end of the year or something, like right now, which is like obviously game development being as chaotic as it can be, things can get delayed, but right now they're on track to release 10 games, which is a shit ton. But, resources are limited, and you're not going to get the same marketing push for all 10 of those games. So you sort of have to pick and choose. And I wonder if Avowed would be just one of those that is kind of just, Game Pass will do what it does, but you'll really throw our marketing muscle behind Doom, because Doom is a franchise that has made a ton of money and is also everywhere. So
yeah, Doom's getting all the money this year.
I mean, don't be surprised when South of Midnight comes out in April if South of Midnight doesn't get a lot of marketing either. Or the Oblivion remake, which apparently, by the way, Jez, is real. There was an interview recently about it. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
You didn't see any of this stuff?
It was confirmed.
Well, Cloberl posted this a few days ago. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remake running on Unreal Engine 5 is in development by Bethesda Game Studios and Virtuous, including reworked gameplay systems, and it links to NP First website, who says, report, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remake is real, first gameplay improvement details. And they started talking about the game, that they can confirm it's real, and that a mistake made by a former Virtuous employee has provided us not just confirmation of its existence, but also insights into gameplay improvements set to be implemented into the original game. And they talk about basically, it goes on to say, a description of the project provided on the site confirms that the title is being developed using Unreal Engine 5 and will be fully remade, hinting at significant changes in this reimagining compared to the original game. Brief descriptions of 6 gameplay systems that will be reworked are also provided. Stamina, sneak, blocking, archery, hit detection, and HUD.
What did Virtuous make again?
They're the ones that ported The Witcher 3 to Switch.
The Switcher.
Yeah, the Switch. They're like a port studio.
Right. Because I knew the Oblivion remake was real. I just wasn't sure to what extent it was a remake or just a refresh or whatever. So that sounds really interesting and compelling. That sounds like something. I played Oblivion a lot, the original one, and when people say Oblivion remake to me, I just kind of think like just refreshed graphics or whatever. So if it's actually got like revamped gameplay as well, because I don't think the gameplay in that game has aged particularly well, I think that's pretty awesome, personally. So that sounds something like I might actually go back and give another go if it does feel better. Because I do think one thing that Bethesda, I would hope that Bethesda focuses on for Elder Scrolls 6 is sort of improving the minute-to-minute combat in their games. Because I think even Starfield, to some degree, suffers from some of this stuff. The randomized loot, I don't like the itemization in their games. Like there's not like a good algorithm for generating loot in any of the more recent Bethesda games. So like you'll go through a point of interest, really difficult point of interest. You'll spend like loads of resources fighting through this cave or this building, and you'll get to the chest at the end. It's like some absolutely useless piece of shit weapon that's not good for anyone's build, you know? So I do think there's like a bunch of issues that Bethesda has to work through there, not just like with the itemization, but also the way combat feels. So I'm really intrigued if Virtuous can out Bethesda's Bethesda with Oblivion. It could be like my hope is that they do it better than Bethesda, and then Bethesda's like, oh, actually, that is a way better way of doing it. So that's interesting.
I don't know. I always thought like, man, Oblivion is a game from 2006. This is something that needs to be like, it can't just be a new fresh coat of paint. Although you would need that, right? You would need a new fresh coat of paint. So if it's really done in UE5,
sexy.
And if they are reworking some of the stuff, maybe that could be.
I'm on board.
That could be something cool. It's supposed to, at least according to the reports or what Nate said, which was pretty much a definitive. Like this isn't speculation, and this isn't like whatever. It's like this is happening. He said it's releasing in June. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, so the Oblivion thing's real. There's also another report. I saw this. I think I sent it to you. I don't know if you guys wrote it up or not, but at least according to I think Mr. Reeves or I'm not sure where this Gaming. Like I know Insider Gaming wrote it up, but I'm trying to like figure out where it comes from. Yeah, basically that a new Halo is expected to be announced this year, which makes me go, huh? Something Halo related could actually be ready to show off? But then I was thinking, well, there was the reports about the Halo Combat Evolve remake, right? Which Halo Studios teased a little bit in their photos they took for their announcement of moving to Unreal. And I wonder if that's the project they're talking about. Like, would we get an announcement of Halo CE remake at the showcase this year, even though it wouldn't come out this year? Is it something that they could reveal? What do you think about this idea of revealing a new Halo project in 2025?
Since Halo locked down the Halo APIs, they've been quite hard to get good leaks on. So I have no idea what it could be. I see a lot of people. Wow, I see one person in chat saying Halo Wars 3. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well,
by Relic or something. But I mean, when did Infinite come out?
Infinite came out in 2021, so 4 years ago. Or 4 years ago at the end of the year.
4 years?
2021. That's how time works.
Doesn't feel like it, bro.
No,
doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Certainly doesn't.
I mean, that's a decent amount of time to have been working on a new game. Presumably, like the live ops team, separate from the team working on the next iteration. Yeah, but they also
remember they also laid off a lot of people, though, especially a lot of people.
Yeah,
on the campaign side of the team and stuff. So
yeah, they had a bunch of turmoil and they reorganized the studio and stuff. But like you say, maybe this year's a reveal, and then next year is like the launch or whatever. But how do you feel if it's like just quote unquote another remake of Halo 1? Because there's already been a remake of Halo 1, sort of, right?
Yeah. Well, this is what it was said. So Rebs Gaming recently spoke about the imminent announcement of an upcoming Halo game. His tweet revealed that the studio has been playtesting future games for the franchise, quote, on a weekly basis. He added, quote, since they are this far in development, I expect at least one new Halo game announcement this year. The details about this unannounced Halo game come from a video he posted earlier this week in which he discussed the new Halo Studios playtest lab. And this new initiative was revealed through a LinkedIn post about a centralized testing space that can host staff from different departments so they can play test games together, share ideas, and build better relationships. So, all right. So how do I feel if about a Halo remake? Like if they're just, here's Halo remake again in Unreal Engine 5, right? I'm not that excited about it, to be honest with you. Like, I would be excited for something new, like a new story within the Halo universe, whether it's Halo 7 and continuing on from the story they left off in Halo Infinite,
ODST
or
2.
like a side story, like you said, ODST 2 or ODST second game, or maybe you bring back Locke and he goes on an adventure somewhere. Like, I'm looking for something new. The problem is I've played Halo CE to death. I played it a bunch of times when it came out on the OG Xbox. I played it again a couple times when the 10-year anniversary edition came out in 2011, where they just kind of gave you the updated graphics, right? You could switch in between. Played it then. Then I played it again a whole bunch more 3 years later for Halo Master Chief Collection, because I went through the whole, I did everything. It's like you beat it on Legendary, beat it in co-op, beat it on Lasso, although I actually got run through the game by someone who was really good at Lasso, but I played, so I'm not really that interested in another legendary All Skulls on. So
what is? Oh, Skulls being modified.
Yeah, the modifiers that make the game way harder.
Oh,
so
nice.
you have to play it on Legendary with all skulls on. It's pretty
What
difficult.
do the skulls do?
Like invisible enemies, or you can only get your health back if you melee, or your shields back if you melee. Explosions are bigger. Like it's the skulls are designed to make it more difficult for you. So there was an achievement for beating on the hardest difficulty with all of them on. And I'm not good enough to do that, but I was playing with somebody who knew his way through with a lot of speedrun techniques and stuff, and basically a lot of glitches to cut through areas and stuff like that.
Oh, Rand exploiting glitches. I
didn't do that. I was playing with somebody who was. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other game did you exploit glitches to complete? Oh yeah, Elden Ring.
I did not exploit a glitch. I beat Elden Ring.
No, you exploited a glitch, bro.
Yeah, you want to call exploiting cloud saves to load up an earlier thing a glitch? Then so be it.
That's a glitch, bro. If you wanted to get the achievements for all the endings, you have to play through the game multiple times.
I don't gotta do shit.
Do it properly, bro.
But anyways, no, I'm not really that excited to play through Halo CE again. Now, there is a bit of I am a bit curious to see how the game would look in Unreal Engine 5, judging from those stills we saw in the Halo Studios announcement. So there is I do have some okay, how cool would this look? But no, I'm not really oh man, let's go through Silent Cartographer for the 50th time. Can't wait to go through the library again. You know what I mean?
Which is the level with all the flood? Is that Silent Cartographer?
Silent Cartographer, I believe, is usually what people refer to as the best level in Halo, and Library is what everybody hates. Everybody says it's the worst level in Halo games, if not gaming in general. People hate the Library.
What? Which one's the Library?
Library is the one where you're just kind of walking around in circles, and the flood is just constantly coming after you. It's a pretty shitty level, honestly.
I like that level. The one with the really tall ceiling and the shotguns everywhere.
I believe that is the Library, yes.
That's my favorite level.
That's crazy.
That's my favorite level. Dude, you get so many shotguns in that level. And then
it just never ends. That level just
it's the only level
looks
with
the
gore
exact
in it.
same constantly, and it just never ends.
It doesn't.
Awful.
And you get a rocket launcher or two occasionally in there. And that's the best level, man, because it's just you and the flood, none of them stupid Covenant enemies.
Yeah. Michael says they're not making it for you. They're making it for PlayStation and Switch players. I mean, that may be, and that may be why it's going to go to those people. But I doubt when they started this project, it was designed with the idea of let's make it for PlayStation and Switch players, considering it probably started all this stuff years ago before any of this multi-platform stuff was really a twinkle in Phil's eye, right? Or I should say a twinkle in Satya's eye.
Or Tim Stewart's eye.
Yeah.
Tim Stewart's the one who's really running it, Microsoft. Not just Xbox, but all of Microsoft. That's what I heard.
Yeah. So
Tim Stewart's the Illuminati.
Michael, the question was am I excited? And then it's like, no, not if it's just CE remake. I've played that game so many times. I'd be excited for something new. Even if it was Halo Wars 3, that would at least be something new and exciting. But okay, yeah, Halo Wars 3. I don't think it would be, but
I'm gonna put some dark energy into the universe right now.
Here we go.
Right, okay, right. This is. I thought, what game could it possibly be? Right, what game could it possibly be? What if, right? It's a remake of Halo 1, but more like a reboot, right? Based on the continuity of the TV show.
Oh God, kill it with fire.
What if it's like a complete okay, so we're throwing away the canon of the old Halo. And now the official canon of Halo is the TV show. And this is the first version of that. What if it's that, bro?
I think most people would thumb their noses at it and not want it. Nobody wants anything to do with the TV show. You know?
But bro, it's the new continuity, bro.
Yeah,
confirmed.
Sorry, Halo Studios. Go back to the drawing board.
I don't like that they're called Halo Studios, bro.
How come?
I think that's a lame branding. What was wrong with 343?
I think 343 name carried a lot of baggage.
Yeah, but you could redeem that baggage by releasing a good game. I mean, Halo Studios is going to have baggage of its own if you release a bad game.
I mean,
it's all about releasing a good game, bro.
I guess, I understand your complaints because why not change the Coalition to Gear Studios or change Turn 10 to Forza Studios, right? I mean, or
Mojang to Minecraft
or Mojang to Minecraft games or whatever hell you wanted to do. I get it, yeah, but that was what they wanted to do. I don't know. They felt like it was time because we're moving on to Unreal Engine 5, and this is a new chapter, and with the new chapter, we want a new name. Okay, fine, fair enough.
Call it Unreal Studios then.
Yeah. So potentially new Halo this year. Maybe.
What if it's a Halo Lego game?
I mean, could be. I mean, there was the Halo Mega Block. Well, I don't think it would be a Lego game. Wouldn't it be a Mega Blocks game?
Oh yeah, it'd be Mega Blocks. Yeah,
or whatever they have the deal with. Like, why doesn't Halo have a deal with Lego?
I have no idea, man. No one cares about Mega Blocks, man. When I go into a store, they ain't got Mega Blocks, bro. They got Legos.
Yeah.
They got Minecraft Lego. I bet the Minecraft Lego partnership makes so much money. I bet that shit prints money, bro.
So, let's talk about Xbox, because Xbox was in the news this week. Not for really anything they did. More so because of, well, we're going to talk about all the stuff that Xbox did, but you wrote an article this week.
I did. I wrote a bunch.
An opinion article about, was it like what to expect from Microsoft in 2025? I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
You talked about what they're going to do for cloud gaming and the upgrades they're going to bring to it. Yes.
Oh yeah. I heard about that.
So what's going on with cloud gaming?
So, I mean, it's hardly like a revelation, right? But they are working towards 4K streaming, improved bitrate, and also, what was the other one? 4K streaming, improved bitrate. Oh, and also like more native PC games, like with mouse and keyboard. I think there are a couple that work with mouse and keyboard, but they're expanding that too.
Okay.
And then also like the semi-regular drops of buy-to-own cloud games as well. So like, even if like we don't have that many now, it shouldn't be long before we start seeing more of those hit the deck.
All right.
That was that.
And you also talked about the developer direct and teased, basically said that a legendary Japanese IP with the new entry was gonna make an appearance.
That's what I heard.
Mm.
That's the rumor mill going round.
And can I just say this on this show, because we talked about an Xbox 2+1? So Sunday, I'm chilling, just going about my life. And I look at my Discord stuff, and I have like 7 missed messages, and I'm like, "What is going on?" So I look at it, and Jez is freaking out. I'm like, "Jez, what's the matter? What's going on, buddy?" And Jez is like, "I gotta leak this. I gotta leak the game. I gotta do it now. I'm writing the article. I'm writing it up right now. I gotta leak what the game is." And I'm like, "Bro, let's take a minute. Let's take a deep breath. Let's think about this for a few." Because, okay, look, I'm always the good angel on Jez's shoulder. When it comes to leaks and stuff, Rand's always like, "Jez, you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to leak what this is? You sure you want to ruin the surprise for many people?" I'm always the one being like, don't. But then, he has this evil angel that he listens to. And you listen to me this time. You're like, "All right, fine, I'll listen to you." But you were going through it, man. You were like, "I have to do it. I need to do it." And I'm just like, "Come on, let's think about it for a second. Let's reel it in,
The reason I was thinking about it was because, like, there was so much information leaking out at that point. And I was like, well, I don't want to get scooped, right? Because it feels like a fair amount of people seem to at least have an idea of what it could be. So I was thinking, like, should I do it? Should I get scooped? Should I do my job and do a report? Or shall I just let it go? Because at the end of the day, I don't like spoiling shows. But if someone else is going to spoil the show, if someone's going to spoil the show,
God damn it.
Yeah, if someone's going to get the clicks, responsibly, it should be my business, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Rand convinced me otherwise. But I do think it sucks to ruin shows and spoil things like that. But at the same time, I got a team who need to get paid at the end of the day, and I take that seriously, man. I take that really seriously. The growth of the site, stuff like that. It's not just a day job to me. It's like really making sure that the site's healthy is like, it consumes me. So, but yeah, we'll let that one go. But I don't like spoiling shit. I really don't.
Yeah, it's just funny because me and Jez has gone through this so many times, and I'm just like,
you're always right. You are always
like,
right.
"Hey, don't do this," but you're always, "I have to. Me and Jeb Grubb got a leak war going on. I have to do this." And I'm like, "Come on, you don't have to." It's fine though. This time you took my advice.
For once.
We got a couple super chats here. We got Chris for $5. So they think Game Pass will do the marketing, but they also don't market Game Pass. Microsoft marketing might be their most out of touch segment. I mean, we've gone back and forth about the marketing stuff for ages. It's kind of a beating the head dead horse kind of thing. This is who they are, realistically, and I do agree with you. So, but it's their money and how they want to spend it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what else we can add to that conversation. Could Microsoft's marketing be better? Absolutely. But for whatever reasons, they market some games and they don't market really others. And then Game Pass itself, realistically. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Chris with the 5 all says, Reb speculates Halo based on his sources saying the studio is already regularly playtesting weekly. The article might have ran a little far with it. Well, maybe it did.
Yeah.
Apperbite with the 5 says, could Microsoft block SteamOS and Proton compatibility? Android and Apple regulation has taken many years. Could Microsoft rely on same regulatory shit? I doubt it. I don't think they can block SteamOS and Proton, right? Compatibility? I mean, like on Windows? Could they block SteamOS and Proton compatibility? I don't think so.
They could potentially argue that Proton breaks Windows term of service somehow. I think like there probably is a universe where that could. I feel like in America you can argue anything, any point potentially. So I think like there probably is like some legal way that they could if they wanted to, but I don't think they want to. I think like Microsoft and Steam have a pretty good relationship, and you know what benefits Steam benefits Windows, and what benefits Windows benefits Steam. Like Valve had some comments recently where they're like, Steam OS isn't about killing Windows. Like we still want to deliver a good experience on Windows and stuff like that. At the end of the day, like they're not like you know, Google where they'd play dirty. They don't have shareholders. So I think that keeps Valve kind of honest, at least for now. So at least for now, I think Valve and Microsoft will have a symbiotic relationship. I don't see Microsoft trying to sabotage Proton. I really don't see that. We'll see.
Champagne
I could be really fucking naive.
Yeah. With 2, he says Respawn and FromSoft Old Republic Souls, call it a day. I did see a report today, I forget who it was, maybe it was Insider Gaming, about Respawn revealing their Star Wars RTS at Star Wars Day? Or some Star Wars event. But that happens.
Who's doing the Star Wars RTS?
Respawn.
Respawn?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, they're doing some sort of RTS. Some sort of Star Wars RTS.
That is really strange.
Yeah, I know, right?
Especially after EA was like, oh, we don't want to use other people's licenses anymore.
Well, it's probably a deal that happened a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Brett with the 2 says Halo Wars 2 did launch in February 2017. Seems like time. I mean, yeah, it's been, 8 years? People, I don't know. Halo Wars 2 didn't do well. Who did Halo Wars 2? It was Creative Assembly, right?
Yes.
And Creative Assembly has been working on... They were working on that live service game that Sega canceled, like, right before it was finished. I doubt they would have Halo Wars 3 ready. And honestly, I'll be straight up. I don't really think Microsoft or Halo Studios wants to do a Halo Wars 3.
No.
If I'm perfectly honest.
If they did do Halo Wars 3, it would if they did do Halo Wars 3, it'd be like via Creative Assembly or something like that.
I don't think they really care about Halo Wars. Period.
That's mean, bro.
I just don't think they do. Double Commander or Commenter with the 5. What's something you watched or played that you can't believe wasn't spoiled before experiencing it?
Oh, Final Fantasy VII, I suppose for me. And the reason I say that is because I didn't even know the game existed. I got Final Fantasy VII really weirdly. So I think like, I don't know, I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. And like after I'd done some exams, or I'd done well at school, my mum was like, I'll buy you a PlayStation game. So she went and got me Men in Black for PlayStation 1 or something like that. It was Men in Black 1 or 2 for PlayStation. Just because, like, you know, the store clerk was like, buy him this game. And the game was terrible, and it didn't play very well. And I was just kind of like, it wasn't obvious how to, like, get out of the first level. So I was just kind of like to my mom, man, this game... And my mom was like, why aren't you playing the game? And I was like, it's not very good. I mean, I appreciate it, but it's not very good. And she felt bad, and she took it back to the shop, and she was like, can you give me a different game? And the guy was like, oh, well, try this instead. It's pretty popular. Final Fantasy VII. I'd never heard of it, but then it was like, but it was it was a huge game already at that point. You know, it'd been out for a few years, and then somehow I completely avoided all mention of it. So all those spoilers and stuff that would have ruined the game, somehow I avoided it. But also Knights of the Old Republic, I suppose, is an even more extreme example. I played Knights of the Old Republic in my 20s for the first time, and somehow avoided the big spoilers for that as well. So those would be mine. What about you, Randall?
I mean, I don't know. The question is sort of this weird thing of like, something you played or watched that wasn't spoiled before experiencing it? Like, you know,
I avoided WrestleMania spoilers somehow as well.
yeah, you did. I mean, are you saying that you went to go see it? Like, I don't know, like maybe like Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War. I remember going to watch those and not really knowing where it was going to leave. But then also at the same time, I knew there were spoilers out there in the wild because people had seen it. So it was me just like avoiding the spoilers. I mean, but I've also watched stuff that was spoiled and I still really enjoyed it. I don't know, like anything that's out there now, whether TV shows or whatever, if you wait some time, like you can find the spoilers if you really want to look for them. So when you say that, I sort of think of like announcements, like game announcements, like something like that. I like, for instance, at this last Game Awards, I can't believe nobody leaked Aminusha or Okami 2, honestly, because the Witcher 4 stuff was out there, right? The Naughty Dog stuff was out there. I mean, I knew about those two games, and a couple others I knew about as well. But Aminusha stuff, like I was blindsided by, which was great because you're always like, oh man, that's super cool. I was surprised that wasn't leaked, and maybe it was, and I just never saw it anywhere. But I guess that maybe that'd be the most recent thing. So yeah. Good O'Connell with 5 says, Jez's idea of non-spoilers is not naming the game or studio, but saying it's Japanese, a legendary studio, and from a love studio, not it's big. Well, I mean, when you say that, it's also kind of... I don't even know the studio that's making it. You didn't say a legendary studio, you just said a legendary franchise, didn't you?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just said a legendary franchise. You didn't say it like a legendary or love studio. You just said legendary franchise.
Yeah, I tried to give it a wide berth, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was like a good halfway between getting scooped and having not having it not leak. But
well, let's talk about Xbox being dead, because I think for most of this week Xbox was dead and dying. And then by the end of the week they were living again, I guess. It's like that meme. Xbox is dead, Xbox is alive. And it seems like every single month it goes through this stuff. But
sure does.
There is a report from The Information, and it came out on Tuesday. And it was a pretty negative slanted business report from, I believe, like a fund manager, talking about Satya and how he thought about closing Xbox in 2021, and how, at the Activision acquisition hasn't done the numbers that Xbox wanted it to or Microsoft was expecting, and that they thought the Azure, like they wanted to really kind of use it for Azure and get more developers into Game Pass, but a lot of game developers have kind of shunned Game Pass and it's not growing as much as they thought, and all these sort of things, right? And people really focused on this during the week. The ones that were like, I told you so. Even though the idea of Satya shutting down Xbox isn't a new thing. I mean, there's a reason why people say Phil saved Xbox, because, when Satya took over, what are we doing in gaming? And it could have ended right then and there. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, the idea of Satya being like, should we shut it down? Whatever. It's not, like, something that is new. It's like, it's something that's happened before. But I think do you have any more information about this, Jez? I feel like, I don't know, like these sort of things just come out of nowhere. It's like, we got some bad news about Xbox, and everybody runs to their computers to type it up, and they talk about...
obviously loads of people cover that because drama about Xbox gets clicks, right?
Yeah.
But I investigated a couple of points on it because, like, some of them were like things that I was like, hang on, that isn't true, you know. So I went to find out and verify the bits that I was sure were wrong, especially the stuff about Call of Duty and Azure Cloud and stuff like that. Because obviously I got sources of Blizzard, and I know what Microsoft's doing with Call of Duty with regards to the integration there. Like we've talked about on the show, all the sort of the complexities of doing that integration is a huge undertaking. But the information article like acts like it's a copy and paste job, you know, like you can just copy past the whole of Call of Duty operation, the whole live ops stack and the entire tech stack. That it reads like you can just copy and paste it. And I was just like, this kind of reads a bit like modern game journalists not really getting tech or the complexities of game development and stuff like that. So, and then there were comments about Satya wanting to shut everything down, or thinking about shutting it down in 2021.
Like slowly closing, like slowly ending everything, like essentially.
Yeah, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Which Microsoft came out and flat out denied.
Yeah, I mean it's just not true. Like why would you make this kind of investment to like slow burn, shut it down? Like what I was told was if that was ever even a consideration, it wouldn't be a case of shutting it down. It'd be a case of selling it or spinning it off because it does make shitloads of money. Mm-hmm. So it's like that's just like they've spoke to a disgruntled former employee who just kind of wants to spread some, I don't know, drama or something. It sounds like to me. So I don't know, but there's gonna be like some nuggets of truth in there, like there always is, right? Where it's like, I think Microsoft clearly does have some challenges, but I think they're industry-wide challenges, not necessarily unique to Xbox in that context. Like, because you know we've got all the stuff about PlayStation struggling with their live service stuff, and where does Xbox fit into that kind of that universe? You know, which is why I think like Xbox is well placed to weather some of these storms in a way that PlayStation isn't. You know, and I know a lot of fanboys won't like to hear that, but it's something like analysts have said too, where it's like Xbox has Minecraft, Xbox has COD, Xbox has Candy Crush. So like if there is a sort of analysis that console gaming is heavily constrained right now and struggling, and they're trying to figure out where the next spurt of growth comes from, Xbox is the one that's sort of like got the layer that'll subsidize their operation in place, you know? So I think the article was perhaps not the best. And also it was like heavily paywalled. So it's not exactly like something you could even really read unless someone, you know, basically pirated it or whatever. But I just don't think it's a particularly good article. It ignored a lot of the broader challenges that the whole industry is facing in consoles, and also ignored a lot of what Xbox has done to address that. You know,
I like the thing is, you know, where he's talking about like, oh, Microsoft expected more. Yeah, it's like comes from a fund manager, and it's like, yeah, the fund manager is always going to tell you like, oh, you should be making more money, or this one's not making enough, and you look at the amount of money that Activision has added to Xbox's bottom line. It's ridiculous. To say that they expected more is absurd. I think Activision in the last like calendar year added something like $7 billion to Xbox's like 15 billion things, for a total of like 23 billion in a calendar year. And like I think it was almost like 40% of the revenue is from Activision. It's like I don't know what more you were expecting outside of just, oh, we should be making more money as a fund manager. You know, like our portfolio should be making more, so you're not making enough. Now, I do think where there is a point to be made is about Microsoft's ambitions for Game Pass, because I've sort of seen some stuff that does suggest that Microsoft has really, really high hopes for what Game Pass can do
Yeah, there's
5,
that
10
100
years from now.
million,
Like 100 million.
100 million people.
And right now, when you're looking at it at the face of it, and last time Microsoft announced numbers, it was like 35 million or whatever it was. You know, it's tough to see how in 5 years they will be at 100 million. And the answer to that question is probably because they won't be. I'm not even sure they'll be at double what they're at right now, at like 60 million
60
or 70 million, right? So, yeah, and that's going to probably be a miss for them. I don't know what it's going to affect. And I think partially because a lot of that was based on growth in mobile. But who the fuck knows if Microsoft's ever going to be able to release their mobile store? And even if they do release their mobile store, who knows if anybody's even going to use it? You know?
Yeah, this is like the whole sort of like that. The mobile stuff really confuses me because I would have been like, surely Microsoft doesn't really believe that they're going to be able to do this. Like, are they seriously that, I don't know, ignorant of the way Google would the various ways Google and Apple could scupper this? And if they make it browser based, you know, then the cost of user acquisition, which is basically your marketing, is going to preclude them of any profit potentially. So I don't know, man.
I mean, I don't know either. I mean, that's where they, you know, that's where they expect a lot of the growth to come. And these like things is like they expect a lot of growth to be in mobile. And like I guess that's to be expected because there are a lot of places in the world that Xbox consoles are never really going to be a thing in, like India and such, that maybe you could, if you had a good cloud service stuff and had your own store, that you could sell Xbox Game Pass to people everywhere in the world. But sometimes that's just a pipe dream. And then sometimes like that's just expectations. Like if these things happens, then this is going to happen and it'll all just take off. And will it? I don't know. I mean, I remain doubtful on the whole mobile store push thing in the first place. We'll see. I don't know what that does to affect Microsoft if they, you know, what happens in 2030. Because at some point, Phil's not going to be around. Somebody else is going to be in charge of Microsoft Gaming. And somebody else is going to be in charge of Microsoft. Satya's not going to be there forever.
No.
So, you know, as we saw when Steve Ballmer left and Satya took over, one of the first meetings he had with Phil was to basically being like, why are we in gaming? And Phil had to sell him on Xbox. And it took some time for Phil to convince Satya that Xbox was worth investing in. Because for half of the Xbox One generation, they had their budgets throttled because of, you know, it was under the Windows division. And I forget who Phil's boss was at the time. Do you remember?
Terry
Myerson. And then suddenly Xbox was like, okay, you know, go out and buy some of these studios. Granted, the studios aren't expensive, like Obsidian and Exile and Ninja Theory and all the studios they bought in 2018 and 2019. They aren't really expensive studios, right? It's like kind of chump change compared to what they eventually went on to spend with $7 billion on Bethesda, and then a chump change compared to $70 billion on Activision. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, because I'm not surprised if Satya was like, well, you know, I don't know, that timeline, like in 2021, it's like you're in next generation, you already spent the $7 billion in Bethesda. Like maybe if it was in 2019 or something, that timeline would make more sense to me. But then again, here's the issue though. It's like the issue is that perception is reality for lots of people, and that all they see are headlines all over social media. Satya almost shut down Xbox. Activision is underperforming. Game Pass is declining. Publishers and developers aren't signing on with Game Pass, right? Or whatever. Anything that people took from this article, from the information, It's that it reinforces people's confirmation bias about Xbox either way. Like you'll have, and it really kind of is apparent when you see, certain accounts and how they talk about Xbox versus how they talk about other platforms. And that is kind of the thing Xbox is fighting in a way. You'll even see it recently with the PlayStation stuff, right? Like the canceling games and their first party studios being a mess. You're going to definitely see people write articles and mention how actually them canceling games is a good thing. And this is great. And here's the reasons why. Where Microsoft really doesn't get the benefit of that doubt. I think that's sort of the difference between the two. Is PlayStation and Nintendo get the benefit of the doubt for all their actions. And Xbox never really does. And maybe it's because Xbox has used up some of that in the past and people just don't trust Microsoft in general. Now that it looks like Microsoft is really in control of Xbox. Maybe it was different when it was just Xbox. But then it's like, actually, no. Like, people didn't give them the benefit of the doubt in the Xbox One generation either. But now that Microsoft Gaming is fully in control, they just view it as another Microsoft product and they just don't trust Microsoft, period. Right? What's funny?
Are you saying it's some kind of, I don't know, a tax maybe?
The tax thing. I had an interesting conversation with somebody about the Xbox tax thing yesterday, actually.
Oh.
I don't know. We've discussed that, and it's weird because when people talk about it, there's a segment of people who talk about it in regards to reviews. That Xbox games get reviewed lower than they should be, and that PlayStation and Nintendo games are rated higher than they should be, right? And I just don't believe that. I'm not saying people don't have unconscious biases towards certain things or genres and stuff that they'll rate higher than others. And I'm not even saying that there aren't people within the industry that don't like Xbox that review their games or what have you. But I think the idea of there being Xbox tax for reviews is wrong, because I really don't think I just don't think that's the case. I mean, Colt Eastwood, my buddy, has been collecting information regarding Xbox and PlayStation releases this generation. And he's got this nice little chart that he goes through every single time one of them announces anything. And this generation, Xbox has released 26 games, with like 4 being remasters or remakes. And their open critic average is like 81.4. And PlayStation has released 31 games this gen, with 9 of them being remasters or remakes. And their open critic average is 81.6. So the difference is like 0.2. They're virtually released the same. But when I mention perception being reality, nobody talks about that. Nobody mentions how basically when you combine them all, that the reviews even out. Everybody talks about how PlayStation releases all these high quality games. Like, all their releases are just like 90 plus game of the year winners. And they never release anything, low rated whatsoever. And that Xbox always only releases low scoring games and hardly ever has games that release, high enough or rate high enough. But then when you aggregate it, it basically comes out the same. They basically the critical average is the exact same. But that's where perception is reality. Is that people just believe what they want to believe. And if you're already of the mindset that Xbox sucks and Xbox is dying and Game Pass is the blight on the industry, and then Xbox doesn't sell any games and nobody buys anything on Xbox, you're going to, any sort of article and stuff that comes out that supports what you already think in your head and the agenda that you believe in, you're going to just talk about it on your shows and retweet it on your social media, and it just reinforces your further belief that you're correct. And anything that comes out to the opposite, Microsoft denying it or any sort of thing that, basically destroys that narrative. You'll just say, oh, that's fanboy nonsense. That's not true. That's bullshit. You'll come up and, that's just how all that works. I mean, take, for instance, recently, which is something we sort of talked about, Marvel Rivals revenue on Xbox. I don't know if you saw this or not, right?
Yeah, I did see this one. I debunked this and then got a bunch of hate for it.
Right. So like a Marvel Rivals Intel account that has a gold check mark on Twitter, so people think it's official. They posted some early revenue returns for Marvel Rivals first month on, release, right? And it was like 50 some odd million for Steam, 27 million for PlayStation, and 2.7 million for Xbox. And oh boy, did this tweet pick up traction, because the people that don't like Xbox and the people who believe that nobody buys games on Xbox and nobody spends any money on Xbox, this just fed right into their delusions. It fed right into the stuff that they already believe in. So they're using that as proof that this is proof. I'm telling you right here. You see this? Marvel Rivals, the biggest game going right now. $2 million? They only made $2 million on Xbox? This just means devs shouldn't port games to Xbox. This is why devs don't want to put games on Xbox, because nobody on Xbox supports it, right? You're coming up with all these different theories and reasons about why this number is that low. And this kind of also goes into the thing about how people only read headlines and they never read the fine fucking print of stories. They never go into the minutia. They don't read reviews. They just scroll to the bottom to see the IGN 9 or the IGN 6. Because I'm a busy boy. I got a lot of things I need to do today. I can't fucking spend 5 minutes reading, the thing that gives me all the context. So you have all these people out there talking about this, retweeting it, further reinforcing the idea that Xbox is a dead platform, that nobody buys games and nobody spends any money, even though the facts of how much revenue Xbox makes is already out there. And it's like, well, that's sort of whatever, right? And then because people sent it to me, and they're like, Rand, what's going on? I'm just like, and the tweet actually had how they estimated their earnings next to it. But nobody read it, because if you read it, you would disregard the whole tweet entirely. Because how they basically estimated the revenue was based on, on PlayStation, it was in store position number 4, and blah, 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 so it must have made this amount of money. And on Xbox, it wasn't even in the top 15 most played games, and it had a tenth of the reviews of the PlayStation version, so therefore it has a tenth of the revenue. And I'm reading this, I'm like, this is a joke, right? Like, people are believing this fucking nonsense? First off, free-to-play games don't show up in the Xbox top paid section. They never have, and they probably never will. So the fact that it was called out there of, like, it wasn't in the top 15 as, like, a detriment of why it didn't make that much money, it's like, what are you talking about? It never does. They never do. And even if you look right now, Marvel Rivals is, like, number 1 in the top free store and the 7th most played game overall on Xbox. But then the idea that the revenue, 27 for PlayStation and 2.7 million for Xbox, it's a tenth because the reviews are a tenth less? What the fuck? And I just sit there like, man, anybody that was talking about this and using this as proof of something, like, you should go back and delete those tweets and delete your shows and podcasts, because holy shit, did you get played? A tenth of what? This is how we're estimating revenue?
It gets worse, because Sakana, like, not long afterwards, Sakana came out with some, like, figures that the same commentators and podcasters often like to use as evidence that Xbox is doing bad. So Sakana's out there saying, like, oh, Marvel Rivals was, like, I don't know, was it the 3rd most played game for the month on Xbox or something? And it's like, well, if they only made $2 million, being the 3rd most played game on Xbox, competing with stuff like Fortnite and Call of Duty, that's on the devs. So that was the hugest, most spectacular nothing burger I've ever seen in my life. Of course, I said it was on Twitter, and then everyone's going like, No, you're just a fanboy and stuff.
Oh, you're defending them. You're making up excuses. This is like, like, of course, it's just like, I'm like, did anybody read this shit? Like, it is so laughable how they got their estimate, but people ran with it,
man,
because it fit the narrative an agenda that they want to talk about. It's like, okay, like, dude, if the third most played game on Xbox only made $2 million, like, I don't know, bro. I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Wait, in Brooklyn?
Wherever
Brooklyn?
there's bridges to sell, I'll sell it to you because you are gullible.
I want a bridge.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Xbox keeps all the journalists and all the YouTubers and all their podcasts full and happy because Microsoft actually is out here doing things and people are just always writing about it, and it just drives traffic. People, whatever, the information comes out and it's like suddenly Xbox is dead all over again. Even with the multi-platform push from Xbox, I recall recently, not that long ago, where Xbox had no games. None, literally none. And all the games they had were garbage. Halo, Forza, Gears of War, trash games, trash franchises for trash people. That was the narrative. That Xbox puts out trash. And now, though, that Xbox is going multi-platform. Now the celebrations in the streets. Oh God, can't wait to play Halo on my PS5. Can't wait to play Gears of War on my Switch. Hallelujah! Suddenly, it went from Xbox has no games to Xbox, I love your games and keep on giving them to me. What? Man, this 180 turned fast real quick. And I guess, you know what? It doesn't matter that PlayStation's canceling live service games, PlayStation gamers, and you'll have to wait a long time in between releases to actually get what you're looking for. Xbox has you covered because Xbox is going to release all their games for you on PlayStation. And we know now how much you want them. We know it was an act when you said they were shit. Because now the true colors come out. Now everybody wants them. It's funny how these things happen, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? This is why, social media is a bubble. Most people don't care. Most people don't listen to podcasts. They don't listen to PlayStation podcasts. They just play good games. And I think Sea of Thieves proved that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sea of Thieves was like Public Enemy #1 when it launched. It was a thin game. It was lacking, no secret, lacking content, and to put it nicely. But it sort of over the years evolved into something quite fantastic. And then you sort of get to a point where it's like, well, done all we can do on PC and Xbox. Let's put it on PlayStation. Will it actually sell on PlayStation, or is it too late after the fact? Well, it turns out that it did sell on PlayStation. It sold pretty well and convinced them that there's actually no harm to Xbox in doing so. Whether or not that part's true remains to be seen, but what is true is that it did well on PlayStation, despite for years the people who don't actually play games but, talk about them a lot online for clicks, aren't the real player base here.
Yeah. Got a super chat here from Jay. He says, for $5, says, so we all agree that Paul Tassi has no more credibility in the games media, right? He, quote, retweeted a big-time PlayStation fanboy. Yeah, I did see Paul retweet Nib and one of his essays that Nib posts online about everything.
You can't expect Paul to know every single fanboy out there.
True. Yes, can't.
There's a lot of fanboys out
there. Yeah.
I only know who he is because he wrote an essay about me, crying. And oh, Jez is wrong all the time. Look at this evidence. Then cherry picking the 3 times that a speculative opinion turned out to be incorrect. There are way more of those, by the way, where I've shared my opinion on something and then the opposite happened.
Well,
but my reporting on Windows Central is absolutely rock solid.
Because people take your opinions about what you say with something and present it as leaks.
Yeah.
Which is why, unfortunately, pretty much you always have to preface things by saying this isn't a leak, it's just my opinion or whatever, because it's like I told you before, like people analyze everything you say, a tweet, anything you say in the podcast or whatever. That's why I always tell you sort of need to think what you say before, which sucks because you're very much, conscious and stream of consciousness right to Twitter.
Yeah.
But
I've noticed that Nate gets this as well, because Nate obviously runs a podcast but also does reporting, and I think sometimes it is genuinely mistranslation, like where people who don't have English as their first language, they can't something gets mistranslated. I see this often with some of the accounts in foreign languages where they hear something I say that's speculative or nuanced in some way on the show, and it's not their fault, not their fault that it's not their first language, but they'll take that and run with it, and say like Jez said this, so it must be true, and then it sort of gets repackaged back into English, where then it's like thought of as like a leak or whatever. I notice Nate gets this a lot because obviously on a podcast, you're not just reporting, you're also sharing anecdotes, talking about things you've heard, rumor mill, things like that. It's not always about like just the straight reporting. I think that'd make for a boring show. If all you did was doing straight reporting, I think that'd be really boring and you wouldn't have that much to talk about. So you just gotta walk the line, I guess, and just deal with what comes as part of doing the job, and block the assholes and celebrate the people that are kind about it and sort of make the effort to understand what you're trying to actually say,
Yeah. Nuisance with the 199 says, Scalebound can finally rest in peace. Yes. Oh, Scalebound.
John's favorite game, I heard.
Yeah. We brought up Nate, but I guess it's time to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. And everyone's been waiting with bated breath to hear what me and Jess think about this thing. And shout out to Nate, who we've had on Xbox 2+1. I did a podcast with him last week when we talked about Xbox's 2025. Man, he nailed that Nintendo Switch thing, man. He put it out there that it was going to be revealed Thursday. But when there wasn't a pre-announcement on Wednesday, people turned on him really, really, really hard. And he got a lot of hate thrown his way. And, well, he ended up being right as he usually is, because Nintendo revealed it at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I did watch the trailer. Very low-key announcement. Not something I would expect, but whatever. And I think it was like a 2.5 minutes long. Jez, tell me what you think, because I made sure I asked you, make sure you watch this, because we want to talk about it. Because everybody's like, yes, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch 2.
I did watch the video.
Do you have feelings about this Nintendo Switch 2?
I was whelmed, bro.
You were whelmed. Okay.
I was whelmed. I felt nothing.
You felt nothing, like nothing in your soul, like it just emptiness.
No emotion. There wasn't a flicker of emotion with that reveal. But I'm not a Nintendo fan. Everyone knows that. It just looked like a better Nintendo Switch. I saw some people act like they were kind of annoyed about the fact that it's just a better Switch.
Like, where's the originality? Where's like the the cool things that Nintendo does? It's just a bigger Nintendo Switch. It's like, well, what'd you expect?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And this is the thing, like when we move into these digital platforms, you got to build a platform. You've kind of got to build all the features and tools that developers expect to be there. So more so than ever, it can't really stray from the formula that they've established with the other console, right? So I think the days of Nintendo doing these hard experiments are probably over. You can see like them doing a lot of peripheral things, like accessories, like the Labo thing they did, and whatever else.
VR.
Yeah, but I think cardboard VR. But I think the platform itself is probably going to be like more sort of tried and tested than ever before with Nintendo.
Do you think the platform now is Switch? So we're like, this is Switch 2, the next one's Switch 3, and the one after that's Switch 4.
Yeah, and until there's some sort of technological leap, I think this is probably what you can expect from them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, though. personally. I'm glad to see there's at least some backwards compatibility, although they did ominously say more information about backwards compatibility will come at a later date. So I'm wondering now, like, oh shit, some games aren't going to be backwards compatible. That's a bit spooky.
Well, that could be like the Labo game. Were there Labo games that like because Microsoft made sure to mention that Kinect games weren't back compat, right?
Oh, I get you.
So I mean, maybe something that used a specific thing that isn't like if Labo's not forward looking, then those things wouldn't work. Or I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there because, like you, I'm not really a Nintendo fan, right? So I watch this thing as someone who is like, all right, let's see what you got. I will say, I like the all black, right? Like I don't know, it just sort of looked like because the one I have has like red and blue Joy-Cons.
No, it looks great.
And
like,
I thought, oh,
nothing wrong with it.
Right? And like
big, robust kickstand. I didn't like the kickstand on the original Switch. That was like flimsy as hell. So, it has all the refinements that it should have from the looks of it. I suppose everyone now just waiting with bated breath to find out what it's capable of, I guess.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, look, my opinions on Nintendo are what they are, and probably shouldn't be taken seriously by anyone that likes Nintendo. If you like the Nintendo Switch and love it, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you have that. And if you're someone looking forward to the Switch 2, awesome. I hope you get what you want. But if you're looking like, what did I think about it? I'm like with you. I was just like, I didn't feel anything. And maybe it's because, I don't know. It's just really just a nice little hardware thing, and I never really gelled with the hardware. Like I don't really like handheld gaming, so like, oh, this is a picture, a handheld that you've seen a million times. It doesn't really do anything for me, and oh, the Joy-Cons, and it's like I've never used the Joy-Cons once because I bought a Pro controller. So, while I think the idea of like using the Joy-Cons for a mouse, because it kind of sort of seems what they're hinting at with the little Joy-Cons kind of like running around on the table.
Doesn't not look comfortable.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently when they have their game reveal, because they did announce that the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct will be coming April 2nd, which is a couple months away here. I guess that leads credence to the rumor that maybe it's going to be launching sometime in June. Because now, a lot of speculation about the pricing. And I've seen a couple of my friends being like, no OLED screen, I'm not buying. Like, people are like, I can't believe it's not going to be OLED. And it's like, well, no, it will be in a couple years. Oh, it's not OLED? No, apparently not. LCD.
Oh.
But I mean, bro, they're going to sell you an OLED edition in a couple years. So everybody rebuys it. Just like, they're probably going to they're going to do exactly probably what they did with the Switch, which was, here's the original Switch, here's a Switch Lite, and here's a Switch OLED. I wouldn't be surprised if they follow that exact same formula. Switch 2, Switch 2 Lite, Switch 2 OLED. You know what I mean? And
here's a question. Do you think they will immediately cut off the last gen, or will they release some of their upcoming slate for the Nintendo Switch 1?
I think the first-party games for Nintendo Switch will be exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2. So it looked like from that trailer, they did show one game, and it looked like it was the new Mario Kart 9. If I had to guess, Mario Kart 9 is going to be a launch title, and it's only going to be available on the Switch 2. I could be wrong. I mean, after all, they did release Twilight Princess on the GameCube as well as the Wii U, or the Wii, right? That was kind of a cross-gen thing. I think that was...
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have done that in the past. And it's certainly possible that Mario Kart 9 is cross-gen. But I guess it was one of the things... If I had to take a bet, I think they will be like, no, it's exclusive. Because they might be worried about people not upgrading to the Switch 2 because they're happy with their Switch 1. And that it can play Mario Kart 8 anyways, and all these games. So they may do a thing where it's like, no, if you want to play Mario Kart 9 and the next Animal Crossing and the next Super 3D Mario, whatever the hell it is, like, you need to get a Switch 2. It would be my guess. I mean, I could be wrong, but Yeah,
because you know a lot of people are
mhm.
happy with their PS4 and Xbox One. You know,
Sure.
it was only recently where someone said to me, um, "I can't play Marvel's Rivals on my Xbox; it won't work."
Mm,
And I was like, "Well, yeah, because you're on Xbox One,
yeah.
because they only use it for Overwatch." You know, so I think a lot of people would just be like, "Well, I don't love gaming enough
Let me
to
ask you this
upgrade
about
if
Marvel
all I like."
Rivals 2. Is Marvel Rivals 2 doing anything that couldn't be done on the Xbox One?
I highly doubt it,
Hmm.
personally.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
because
I've played it briefly. It doesn't seem that spectacularly
it
intensive
doesn't
to
seem
me.
like a game that is like, oh, we couldn't do this on previous generation.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like that way to me. But back to the Nintendo thing. I am interested in checking out the April reveal or the April Direct, because at the end of the day, like the hardware doesn't do anything for me. Because even if I get the Switch 2, which I haven't decided about yet, I mean, there is a part of me that might get it just to have it, but also it depends on price. A lot of
It's nice
analysts are
being
out there
rich.
being like, "Oh, well, no, I'm not rich," but a lot of analysts are out there being like, "Oh, it's got to be $399 or
Well, let me
$299."
ask you this:
What?
how much is it going to cost?
I have no idea because
How much do you think it's going to cost?
man, that's a good question. I I don't know. I'm looking at what the Switch One cost at $299. You would think this one would at least be $399, like $100 increase. But I think the Switch 2 is like so anticipated that Nintendo probably could get away with $499 and still sell out of all their stock. And I almost think Microsoft and Sony regret launching their consoles at 500 because the early adopters of this really probably won't care what the price is going to be. If they were expecting $399 and it's $499, they're gonna buy it day one regardless. So I guess I'll go $399, but I'm not convinced that Nintendo won't just do $499.
I think it's going to be $4.99.
Which, when you look at that on paper, like that's the same price as a PS5 and a Series X. I mean, maybe Nintendo's maybe they'd be good with that and people would still buy it. I don't know, but for me, like I know how much use I would get out of it, so I'd rather it be as cheap as possible because I know if I do buy this thing, I'll probably only play it a few times, and I'd rather not have to waste a whole bunch of money. So $4.99 to me would be like, yeah, I'd be leaning towards no. I mean, I'm already leaning towards no anyways, unless there's some big reveal that some game that just looks incredible that you have to play or what have you. But I am looking forward to that April 2nd just to see the type of games that are going to be announced there from third party and from first party and stuff. But yeah, the pricing thing, I guess you could be right. I guess it could be $4.99. And
That's my prediction.
They'd probably make a ton of money off that because they probably would. I mean, there was a report that they're ready, like their suppliers are basically saying they're going to have like 20 million Switch 2s available by year end or something like that.
Mm.
And I wonder if would the market be that price conscious? But because then you're looking, that's a $200 increase from the Switch 1. And as anything that you've seen in that trailer justify a $200 price increase? Don't really think so. I mean, it's a slightly bigger screen with some new functionality on the Joy-Cons and a new C button or something. I don't know. I thought I saw somebody said that the C button was going to be for dual screen or something. I don't know. But we'll see. But they revealed it, so it's out there. We got JD Gamer with the 5. I wonder how many of those professional journalists or Dub Rocks are going to come out and retract all those false statements they made just 2 days ago.
Who?
I don't know. Dub Rocks? I don't know.
Don't know.
Probably none of them. And he also says, the reason why professional media is shrinking is because they act like podcasting fanboys, no sources, credibility, objectiveness. I say be better.
Well, a lot of the clicks are going to those kind of outlets. So the game journalists and websites are interpreting that as, oh, that's what people want. You know, people want the no sources, clickbait stuff. Like I was, you all know I've gotten into wrestling again recently after like a 15-year hiatus, and I'm like shocked at the quality of wrestling journalism. It's like, you think game journalism's bad? Like wrestling websites literally just completely make shit up.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, they've got like
and they'll copy sources without crediting and stuff. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. It's shocking, and I'm like, man, people think game journalism's bad. Damn.
And the thing is, like, it's just as toxic too, because it's WWE versus AEW, which is like almost just as toxic as the console wars.
Yeah, it can be.
So, yeah, it's kind of not. You should get into it. You should start your own wrestling website, or start writing
wrestling.
Start writing for a wrestling website, and start doing stuff like that. Have you know? You're in the Netflix era with Raw, you know, new users. It's time to branch out.
Maybe.
You need to reach out to Paris and do this podcast once a week.
Yeah, me and Genbox have been talking about it as well, because she's into wrestling. But we actually have a wrestling website within Future called What Culture also covers wrestling. I've thought about reaching out to them and being like, hey, I wanna do some editorials on wrestling. If you want to. Need any writers? but yeah, I don't know. But in essence, I do agree that journalists need to be better. But it's just like, if the state of play is that people prefer TikTok style journalism, then that's what the industry will give people. You know, you have to, if you like a journalist, make sure you support them, because a lot of the casual traffic is just going to TikTok. You know?
Yeah. That's true. That's definitely true. We also, Jez, I wanted to bring this up for you, because this was one of your complaints about Starfield. Was, where's the gore? Where's the gore?
Yeah.
What happened to all the blood and the gore?
Yeah.
And there was an interview with somebody that basically said, you know, yeah, blame the space helmets and everything.
Well, this is ridiculous, right? And I'll tell you why this is ridiculous, right? You can still have gore even with space helmets, and the way you do it is, if they've got a spacesuit on, just turn the gore off. And like, you can have gore where it's like, you shoot people in the space helmet, and maybe like their space helmet sprays out zero gravity blood and all that kind of stuff. We were robbed, bro. We were robbed. I think any sort of game that's going for immersion, especially a shooter, if you don't have gore, you know, it's not about just being bloodthirsty. It's about like immersion. It's about realism, and it's about the weapons feeling impactful. Like if I hit a dude with like a super weapon or something, and he just turns into a little ragdoll, it sort of makes the guns feel lame, you know? Especially when you can do a direct comparison to something like Doom. So yeah, I am not happy about their decisions over gore in that game, bro.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring it up because I know that was a big thing for you.
Yeah. It's not a big deal, but it's also like the game. I feel the game would have been better had it have kept that in.
We did get a big game reveal this week from Rebel Wolves. A bunch of ex CD Projekt Red guys. The game director of Witcher 3. This is his game called Blood of the Dawnwalker. And I watched some of the trailer, you know, cinematic trailer set in like medieval times, but with vampires. So maybe it's going to be Witcher, but vampire. It does look cool. Vampire. It does look a game like, you know, I saw that trailer and I was like, interested in, even though it's a cinematic trailer and it's hard to get hyped for that sort of stuff. But, you know, based off the pedigree of the people at the studio and the game director, And you know, like honestly, they don't make a lot of games about vampires anymore, do they? If they ever really did. You
Hey,
know?
bro, put respect on Redfall's name.
Well, I'm trying to forget everything I know about Redfall.
Oh man.
But I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'll probably definitely play this. Well, I'm looking. They did say like the gameplay reveal coming this summer, so that means it's either going to be a Jeff Keighley show or, Nintendo show or an Xbox show or somebody's show. But it's definitely something that I'm like, okay, cool. You have my attention. And we'll see what the actual game is. I don't know, like if it's just Witcher but vampires, I mean that could be pretty cool, But moving on from that, I don't know if you saw this, and this will be spoilers for a game probably people don't care about, but Suicide Squad ended, and guess what?
No, nobody cares.
Guess what? None of them died because it was all fake and they were just clones. But, like I said, nobody cares. Yeah, Batman really didn't die. The Batman that died was just a clone.
Oh.
Which is exactly what people called out when the game was kind of first revealed and first like previewed, was that, I bet you the twist is like none of these are the actual, it's just clones. And that's how it actually ended up. Yeah, with this last update that was taking the game offline. Yeah.
And it was all a dream.
It was all a dream. And they'll never be referenced again. Rocksteady will go on to make a Batman game and won't even talk about Suicide Squad. What a disaster. And there's been
it's kind of like the last nail in the coffin, right?
Live service misses. And when you talk about PlayStation, because this is the PlayStation canceling game stuff, which is it's funny, but also apropos, because Yoshida was literally on Kind of Funny. Man, he had some quotes. It almost sort of came off a little bit like he had some dirt he wanted to share about PlayStation. Like there's a little bit of I don't want to use the term like resentment or bad blood, but like the way he talked about how if he was still in charge, because remember at one point Yoshida was in charge of PlayStation's first party, and then they relegate him to like, you're just in charge of the indies, right? And he mentioned how if he was still in charge of PlayStation's first party, he would have pushed back against the idea of the live service push that Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst wanted. And so people were like, "Oh yeah, like Yoshida, yeah." Then he started talking. He didn't want to talk about PSVR 2 because it's a failure. He, said that like Horizon Forbidden West was a disappointment, which people didn't like to hear.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he said some stuff, bro. He said some stuff. He even talked.
Is it known that didn't sell? Like, disappointment in what sense? It didn't sell well. It didn't review well.
Sales wise.
Right.
It didn't reach the levels that I think it underperformed the first game, and I think they were expecting it to do better than the first game, and it didn't. So it's like, it was a disappointment in that regard. And then he mentioned how, if you want new games from first party, you need to buy the remasters and the PC versions of the games, which is like a very, very odd thing to say.
So I have to buy the PlayStation game and the PC version?
Yeah, and then you get, even though you may have already bought and played Last of Us, you got to buy the Last of Us remaster and, to get Naughty Dog's future stuff and buy all their remasters because single player making games is expensive, didn't you know?
Why am I a charity now?
You exist to give Sony money.
Huh.
They have a vacuum in the thing. So please buy the remasters. Don't complain about the remasters. Please buy them all, right?
Meanwhile, Microsoft's out here giving you the Xbox and PC version simultaneously.
Yeah. So, and then like I think the next day or the day after, they announced these cancellations of the 2 live service games. Jason Schreier put it out there. Blue Point, they were working on. He said Blue Point. They acquired Blue Point. I forget what year, and Blue Point was working on between after they finished the Demon's Souls remake. They were put on support studio duty for God of War Ragnarok from 2020 to 2022. And then in 2023, they started working on their own live service God of War. And then Sony Bend, which has kind of had a tumultuous dev history now because they shipped Days Gone 1, and then Sony didn't ever want a Days Gone 2, so they were sort of doing support work, but then they were also given their own game, which was a live service game. And both these games were canceled because Concord. Jeff Grubb was putting it out there yesterday that basically Sony terrified of what happened with Concord, and it made them go through and look and take a second look at all their live service games in development to basically see if is this going to work out, or if it's not, and if it's not, let's just pull the string on it now. And I guess they determined that these two were two games that they needed to pull the string on and get rid of them. And it's man, Concord's still feeling the influences to this day. A game that existed for 2 weeks, and and that PlayStation fans like to imagine didn't exist, which is kind of funny because it's weird because Sony had the highs and the lows of the live service. They had this incredible Helldivers 2 that sold more than anything they've put out. I think it was the fastest selling PlayStation game ever, more than Spider-Man 2. And Yoshida even said who would have thought that Helldivers 2 would do that? And so you have that, and that probably reinforced their thing about live. Okay, well, this, yeah, let's do it. And then Concord becomes the, embarrassment it was. And now there's oh crap, well, do we need to cancel this stuff? But they still have live service stuff because you still have the Marathon game from Bungie. You have that Project Gummy game from Bungie, which is a Smash MOBA game.
Project Gummy?
Yeah, something like that. Project Gummy, Project Bam, whatever the hell that game's called.
You play as a gummy bear or what?
No. You have Fair Games, which at this point is Fair Games is too far along for you to cancel because that game just seems they revealed it, I think, was it last year or the year before? We haven't heard a peep or anything about it since. And I think the rumor is that PlayStation's going to have a state of play next month. I mean, if you're going to see Fair Games show up, I mean, if it's coming this year, it's got to be next month. But I can't imagine they have a lot of confidence in that game at this point in time because that's Jade Raymond's game, her studio, Haven. And I'm trying to think what else. There's Guerrilla's making a Horizon co-op game or Horizon co-op MMO game. Man, they love themselves for some Horizon at PlayStation, don't they?
Yeah. Do you think the franchise deserves the attention it gets from them? Is it really that popular? I mean, I'm asking because I don't know.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that the former head of the studio is the head of the first party.
Right.
And the thing is, Sony has games in their backlog of IPs that would fit a live service. Say what you will.
Days Gone, baby.
Well, no, not even Days Gone. SOCOM, Killzone, Siphon Filter. They have games that are seem more geared towards a live service. I mean, I guess you could say Days Gone, but that franchise was Sony wants nothing to do with it, so it ain't coming back. Mean. Well, I mean, I don't care. It's mean. It's just business reality. It didn't do what it is. It didn't do as well as the other PlayStation games, so it was scrapped. And I know that one, the Sony Bend lead is kind of doesn't always have a lot of nice things to say. I mean, he's pretty pissed he wasn't able to do. He was the guy that was pissed about Deacon being a cameo in Astrobot, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you end up in this situation where
I will say it is weird. Why celebrate the character for a franchise you cancelled? Like a kick in the teeth almost for the people who made it.
Maybe.
It's good enough to be a mascot in a game like that, but
Well, I mean, I
You
think it's
don't
good
want to
enough
make
to
a
be
new
like one
game.
of 300 little things in Astrobot, you know? It's not like they built a level in Astrobot like the Days Gone level like they did for
Fair
God of
enough.
War or Uncharted or Last of Us or you know what I'm saying? Like they went out of their way to build specific levels for some of the biggest franchises. It's not like they're out there being like, let's go through the Days Gone level. It's just one character from Days Gone out of all these other
Fair enough.
characters that exist. So, you know,
I like Days Gone.
you like Days Gone.
I got to think about zombies though.
I mean, Days Gone, I played it when it first came out. It ran like trash. I didn't care for the story. I thought it
Blasphemy.
was extensively mediocre. Other people really
Wow.
liked it once it came to PC and it performed well and stuff, but I never jived with Days Gone. And Sony didn't like it either. I don't know. It's like Ben Studio's been through some shit because it's like they weren't allowed to do Days Gone 2, and then whatever they were doing next, Sony basically told them go jump in a lake. Now I guess they did tell Jason
Damn.
Schreier that they're not going to shut down these studios, but they weren't really talking about layoffs yet because you know that's the problem with this, Jez, is how you cash flow these studios now. Is like they were
They
working on
do cash
something
flow
for
these studios, bro.
you were working on something for 3 years and you're paying for it, but now those studios have to go back to pitch games to PlayStation, and PlayStation is probably not in a live service mood. Which that's where some of the talk is now, is that this is actually a good thing. Sony canceling these games is a good thing because we don't like live service. So them wasting all this time and energy and resources is actually good because now it's sort of you know, now we're straightening up Herman Hulst and Jim Ryan's mess that Jim left, and we're getting back to what PlayStation does good, which is single player games, right? Who wants, you know, we want a new IP from Bluepoint. We didn't want them to make a God of War clone, you know, and we want this from Days Gone. We didn't want them to make a live service. Like, we don't want live services. And it's funny because, like, if you look at the most played data on PlayStation, that's exactly what PlayStation fans want. They want live service. And if you look at the same thing with Xbox, that's exactly what Xbox fans want, is they want live service because that are the games that are played the most. You look at the top 15 games, it's always the same games. But that's where it makes it hard to break in. And maybe that's where they thought, like, oh, God of War live service has IP recognition. People love it. Oh, a Spider-Man multiplayer game. People love Spider-Man. They're going to want to play this shit with friends. Canceled. You know, Last of Us canceled. You know, and it's just...
Maybe they looked at Suicide Squad for Spider-Man. I'm like, oh, that could be a nasty disaster.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you do? It's not like single player games are getting less expensive.
This is it's an existential crisis, not just for gaming, but there's a lot of industries that are suffering right now because there are physically not more people to address. Like when the industry was growing for like however many millions of years, like there was always like more gamers to address, more people to, you know, to play and to join in and all that kind of stuff. But those days are pretty much over now, where it's like we've gotten to a point where it's like, this is the total addressable audience of gamers. These are the sum total of everyone who will ever want to play a game, you know, and even further still, those younger generations, they've got access to instant gratification on a level that people have never had access to instant gratification before. Like to them, scrolling on TikTok is probably the same cognitive entertainment as a video game would be to people of our generation, right? This is why I think the conspiracy theorist in me thinks like there's probably a reason why a lot of, you know, corporations were pushing for TikTok's ban. That algorithm is fucking addictive, bro. And it's impacting not just like gaming, it's impacting pretty much every online service you can possibly imagine. Like the very concept of like being entertained is kind of like warped by these addictive kind of algorithms. You know, and judging by popularity, whatever TikTok does for its algorithm is more addictive than even what Instagram can come up with, you know? So there's probably that aspect to contest with and consider as well, with regards to industries being constrained. So where does the growth come from? If you know, if individuals making content for free on TikTok is as addictive as the art of gaming, you know, or is it okay that gaming just stays as an art thing and doesn't necessarily become this huge growth vector? I think what will probably happen over the next few years is that you'll see a lot of extraneous studios close, and I say that with like you know, reluctance, because I don't want to call any studios extraneous, but like these studios that aren't making spectacular games or doing anything spectacularly new or spectacularly fun, I think a lot of those studios, like Ubisoft, is honestly the first to fall here. A lot of those studios are just gonna probably go down by the wayside because it's like they don't need to exist, you know, to put it harshly. Unless they come up with something new and fresh and exciting, then it's like, why are you here? You know? And that's kind of like, I think that's where on the business side of the industry, you'll see shrinkage, you know. To put it nicely.
Seeing some shrinkage, huh?
They're going to see some shrinkage, yeah, some cold times ahead. But I think eventually the industry will emerge like better for it, in a way where it's like, you know, you'll see cheaper games being made that are still fun and high quality. Like, you know, I'm playing Blasphemous a lot lately. You know, this isn't a game with AAA graphics, it's pixel art. But God, it's one of the best games I've played this gen. It's so good. It's so fun. It looks so cool and it's so unique. And it's like, I'm sure it was quite expensive to make still, but we're not talking like AAA mega budgets here. We're talking like, you know, high quality indies. I think that's one reason Steam is thriving right now. I think a lot of the people that want that variety, which is like us guys, people listening to this podcast, that's where Steam is finding all the success. It's like every time I log into Steam, the algorithm recommends me a cool looking game that I've never heard of before. And it's like, oh shit, that looks fantastic. It's like some random PC exclusive because a dev has like got the freedom to, you know, quite easily bring games to Steam without having to worry about all the overheads that come with, you know, being on console, you know. They don't have to localize their game and all that kind of stuff, and they can just focus on making the game within their means, you know. Whereas like Xbox and PlayStation, like they make it quite difficult to actually bring a game to their systems, for better or worse. So I don't know. There's a lot of facets and issues to this. There's a lot of like, not just PlayStation and Xbox problems, but just global demographic problems. You know, the kids growing up on all those algorithms and not even seeing games as something they want to do, or maybe even weirder, not seeing games like Minecraft or Roblox as video games in the traditional sense. They see themselves as like, oh, I'm a Fortnite player, I don't play other games. Oh, I'm a Minecraft player, I don't play other games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know
that's
people.
on PlayStation and Sony to solve some of that shit.
I know, like my sister plays some mobile games on her phone, but she wouldn't consider herself a gamer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, I play this, but I'm like, oh, so you're a gamer? She's like, absolutely not, because it still has that like negative connotation.
Gamers.
Gamer, disgusting, smelly, ooh,
Yeah, gamers.
acne and fat and blah 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 blah. Right? Gamers,
Neckbeard.
ew, yeah,
Ew,
incels,
gamers.
disgusting.
Like, ew. Sorry, I went too far.
Yeah, you did go too far with that.
I went too far, guys. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I sort of wonder now. Like, to me, this is all just like peak mismanagement of reading the room wrong and putting in something that like making decisions and making the wrong ones. And PlayStation is just lucky that none of this really will affect their console sales, because even if you bring this stuff up, people are like, oh, it doesn't matter because PlayStation's still going to sell their consoles. And like, yeah, they're lucky that they're the default experience for a lot of people when coming to buy a console, that it doesn't matter, because for those people, exclusives don't matter. God of War and Spider-Man isn't the reason they buy the console anyways. It's for everything else. So, Sony canceling games, for a lot of those people, they don't even know Sony's making any games because they don't even care about any of them. It's just, when you buy a gaming system, that's what you get. You get a PlayStation because that's where your friends play Fortnite and Madden and FIFA and all that stuff. And it's like you don't even know or care that a game was canceled because you don't give a shit about God of War and you don't care about Days Gone. Like, those things don't matter to you. It's just that, so, if this was Xbox, I mean, like I mentioned, Xbox canceled Scalebound and still bears that cross to this day, and I'm sure games are canceled all the time at every publisher across the world. But it just kind of sort of seems like when Xbox does it, it's like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And it's just like bad Xbox, and then we'll never forgive you for this. But when it's somebody else, when it's PlayStation or Nintendo, it's a good thing. This is a good thing because maybe nobody wants live service, except for the fact that you look at the most played games, it's all people want. They want a piece of that money. And unfortunately, they're just late to the party.
Yeah. I want live service, but I want good live service. But I also think fashion trends are cyclical. I think like today, single player games are maybe, have become too expensive to make. So they've become shitty because of studios bending over backwards to, try and target imaginary audiences, where it's like, oh, we need to pander to XYZ or have these features in order to grow and sell, like bloat or whatever you want to call it, like whatever the reason is, right? It could be like a million different reasons, and it could be like when they free themselves of this mentality that single player games have to be this mega blockbuster, super duper, all singing, dancing, million-hour experiences, and maybe like go back to just making really cool, fun experiences in a cheaper kind of way. And again, this might be hella naive. In a cheaper kind of way, then maybe the people will come back and like people will start talking about them again in a sort of, in a way that makes people excited about games again. Like, how could I ever get someone excited about Dragon Age the Valguard, for example, or something like that, where it's like, just like the most dull kind of game imaginable, like by the numbers, checklist, development by checklist, or development by, corporate desires over actually making something with passion and soul, like a Cyberpunk or a Baldur's Gate, And games like Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate, which, by the way, both have tens of thousands of daily active users, despite being quote unquote not service games,
What do you mean?
They really
Cyberpunk won best ongoing game. What do you mean?
Did it really?
Yeah, well, last year I won best ongoing game. What do you mean?
Okay, well, I guess Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate are live services, and what do I know, man?
No, I mean, I'm not like, you kind of bring up a point, because I think everybody expected Bluepoint to make this big AAA game, or Sony Bend to make a big AAA game, but I wouldn't be surprised if, because of all the time and money that has been thrown down the well, that if what they pitch is just a small project, like a small AA project.
Dude, they're sitting on Bloodborne, bro.
Yoshida was asked about Bloodborne 2, and he basically said Bloodborne 2 will happen whenever Miyazaki has time or free.
Just remaster the original.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason they don't want to, or haven't yet. It's free money, but there has to be a reason why it hasn't happened.
Just Miyazaki doesn't want to do it?
Well, no, he was asked about Bloodborne 2, and he said Bloodborne 2, like, will happen when and if Miyazaki has time or wants to do it. Maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. There has to be.
Sony has the rights to Bloodborne 1. Why don't they just have Bluepoint do the Dark Souls on it? The Demon Souls on it.
You would think that would be what they should have done, but they didn't, and they haven't. So it makes you wonder if there's some contractual thing that prevents them from doing a Bloodborne remaster. Like, I don't know, maybe the only ones who can do it are From Software themselves, and because they're busy, they're not gonna do it. Yeah. It seems like easy, free money, so you have to question why it hasn't been done. I mean, the game's 10 years old, I believe. I think it came out in 2015. So, I don't know. And
what do we think the next big From Software game is going to be?
Elden Ring Night Rain.
well, you're getting a Night Rain service game, although they're desperate to say it's not a service game.
I know they are, aren't they?
I mean, if it is a service game, in my view, but
like, so basically, what is Miyazaki working on? Is your question?
Yeah, what is the next game from them? Because he said something about wanting to take Armored Core to the next level. Yeah, like, Armored Core is really fun, but it doesn't have the Miyazaki touch.
Armored Core will never go to the next level. People just don't really care about mechs like that. I'm sorry, they just don't.
I don't know, bro.
People
are you aware of the mecha genre of anime, bro?
No, I'm not, but
people care about mechs, bro.
I'm not saying people don't care about mechs. I'm saying people don't care about mechs in the mainstream. It's not something that's gonna. The best you can expect for an Armored Core game is probably what Armored Core 6 did, which is probably the most an Armored Core game has ever done, because From Software has definitely raised their pedigree.
I love mechs, man.
I know you do.
I need to finish Armored Core 6. Another one of them I haven't finished yet.
But anyways,
you play Blasphemous?
I have not played Blasphemous. No.
So good, man. If you like Metroidvanias, like, oh god, it's peak Metroidvania, man. It's fan-fucking-tastic. I love this game. It's even got like the Metroidvania style like grid kind of map, and it's like, oh, have I opened that bit yet? Oh, I'll go and have a look there. How the fuck do I open this door? It's like, oh shit, I just got a new tool that lets me, jump higher or whatever. Now I can reach that ledge. You know what I mean? It's so good, man. I love Metroidvanias, bro. Inject it right into my veins.
Inject it. But let's take some Patreon questions, shall we?
Sure, man.
If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't.
Bro.
We have Rave Damos, Jez. You ready?
I just found a hidden door, like in Dark Souls, by hitting the wall.
Yeah, I know. That's a thing.
I didn't know that. But yeah, go on. Rave Damos.
Rave Damos. Rand Jez, please join me in putting on your tinfoil hats. Not to say Xbox console sales wouldn't be low in their own right, but part of me wonders if Xbox was also keeping inventory low for a reason. Could it be because new consoles are coming sooner rather than later? Whether that be third-party Xbox branded consoles or a new first-party console in 2026. Please take off the tinfoil hats and return to reality. Gracias, gents. Yeah, I did see. Wasn't you guys wrote some article about like Xbox Series X hardware being hard to find in places now?
Yeah, it's sold out in the UK, a lot of places.
What's up?
It's sold out in Poland. I've seen other places where it's kind of sold out. I mean, it is available at some retailers in the UK, like I think Smith's had some in a toy shop. But I think that part of it is xCloud cannibalizing stock because it's the same silicon, right? And this is why I've heard they want to move, partially why they want to move xCloud eventually to PC systems, right? Partially. But then you've also got like, because capacity for xCloud was heavily constrained over the holiday period because everyone was logging on. And there's this sort of like, there's this view that xCloud could be the growth vector to keep Xbox afloat, right? So I think xCloud is probably cannibalizing some of it because it's all the same silicon. But I also think it's also post holiday season stuff too. Like they just got sold out, you know. So I don't know.
So do you think there's any with the tinfoil hats thing about like the reason they're not there is because they expect some new hardware soon? I think that's a little. I don't subscribe to that conspiracy theory.
No, I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a thing either. Good conspiracy theory though. Silas says, "Hey guys, Jez, I love to know how you being blackballed by certain studios like Obsidian affects the outlet Windows Central and its access to said studio's content. For example, if they were doing press for Avowed, would they take someone else from your team like Genbox to get an interview and review codes, or does your shadow loom over the entire site and you don't get press availability?"
Nah, they will generally speak to someone else. Like, we did do the Avowed preview. Zachary did it for us, but they won't speak to me. It's all, you know, which is, you know, it's whatever at the end of the day. But honestly, it doesn't really negatively affect the outlet because the vast majority of our traffic does not come from gaming, previews or access. Access journalism is not really something that we do or need to do. It's not like we don't have a big YouTube presence. We don't need video footage. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. So we don't really need access. We've always done leaks and reporting. Like even before when it was called Windows Phone Central, you know, Zach and Dan were leaking phone stuff way before I was even hired. So it's kind of always been like, you accept that like if you leak stuff, you might piss people off, but it's also what we do. It's the original reporting aspect of the job, so can affect it, but it's not the be all and end all. And usually, other writers can get opportunities, even if I'm the hated one. Because I've been worried. Sorry, just quickly. I've been worried in the past that like it's affected Rand potentially. I remember we had discussions about that where I was like, back when you were making a lot of videos, I was like, I'm worried that I'll negatively affect your ability to get games and stuff if like I got blacklisted.
Oh, and you totally did, bro.
What?
When I asked for stuff, they're like, "Ooh, you podcast with Jez? No thanks."
Damn.
James Moore, he says, "We are always told that consoles are not the future, but would killing Xbox and to an extent Surface hardware do damage to Microsoft as a brand as a whole?" Probably not, I would think. I mean, let's imagine a scenario where they like kill Surface. I don't think that affects Microsoft's bottom line very much.
No, it wouldn't.
Or, I mean, I guess you could say maybe, look, people don't trust Microsoft anyways. So them killing Xbox or Surface, it just would just reinforce people's distaste for Microsoft, and you know. But Microsoft's where they make all their money isn't really consumer focused stuff, anyways. It's like it's business to business, right? It's, hey, we own the dominant OS, Office tool, tools for the workspace. We're
Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Yeah, it's Copilot, and businesses use Azure. So, they don't really have a lot of, like, Xbox and Surface are basically their last vestiges of business to consumer, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the issue with Surface was like it did good revenue, but like the margins were terrible. So, Surface is basically gradually being wound down. I think it's in essence. But I also think like Xbox is different because Xbox does have good margins, or at least better margins, like much better margins, and also way better revenue. Like Xbox is in, the multi-billions of dollars universe, whereas like, Surface was in, I think Surface maxed out at like 2 billion or something like that. So, yeah. I don't think Surface is long for this world.
Do you have any Surface? Do you have any Surface products? Do you own any Surface things?
My girlfriend has Surface Pro 10, which she uses for work. which she really likes. And it's a good device, you know. It's a really good device if you use it what it's for, which is, you know, drawing and art. And she works in social media, so she does a lot of editing and stuff like that. So it's really good for that purpose. But they're good devices, man. They're really good devices. They work well, but it's also kind of like, I think it's just not a business Microsoft cares to be in, because they are just super expensive. They can't get the prices of them down. You could argue they're a little bit over-engineered, but it's like that makes the quality good, you know, the fact they're over-engineered. So I don't know.
All right. So let's see here.
It's a weird one.
We got Sith Banks 87. Hello, gentlemen. Just had a couple questions for the boys this week. To get a wrestling question, what would each of your finishers be, and what song would you like to have played for your theme music? It can be a real song or a wrestler's theme.
I actually had a finishing move.
What was it? What was your finishing move?
Because I was a backyard wrestler, man. I was a backyard wrestler. We did. I did a submission, man. It was a DDT. Like, you got them for a DDT, then you kind of lifted them off the floor by their head, so like you would choke them, right? I think Hulk Hogan famously did it to a journalist and got in a lot of trouble because he did it like his shoot did it, you know. But I don't know. I like submissions. I always like the mandible claw. I was always a Mick Foley guy, Mick Foley fan. What about you, Rand? What's your finisher, bro?
I don't know what my finisher would be. Maybe the package pile driver.
Package pile driver.
That Kevin Owens did to Cody Rhodes recently. As for music, I don't know. I always liked Edge's music. So I'll just say that. He also has, I'm currently 100% completing The Quarry on Xbox. What game would you recommend to play next in the same vein? Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, or Until Dawn? I was hoping for
That's a round question.
I was hoping for an Until Dawn Xbox version for the recent re-release, Hardy Har Har. Well, definitely don't play Heavy Rain. Out of those,
Heavy Rain ain't bad.
But it's not nearly as good as the other two. Jason.
No, what was his name? Was it Jason?
Yeah, he's going around.
Jason,
yeah.
Jason.
I will say I liked Until Dawn more than I liked Detroit Become Human. But I mean but I played the original Until Dawn. I mean, I would assume it's the same with the remake, but that's the one I would pick. D Big Fluffy Bunny says, "Hey guys, I hope you guys had a good week. Are there any Xbox games for 2025 that you think might not live up to the hype? Which games do you believe have the potential to be major disappointments? Why and what could they have done? Thanks for the great content and have a great weekend."
Disappointments. Disappointments. I am. See, this is problematic because, like, when I say like I'm worried about a game, people think I'm saying it on the basis of having inside knowledge, even if I don't.
Yeah.
So I've got to be careful here, I suppose.
I mean, if you look, I guess it's for anything that you would say like it would be a disappointment, it would have to be one that comes with expectations, right? Because otherwise, whatever. Like, I don't really think people have expectations for an Oblivion remake, or I don't know. Like, so when I think anything that has like the most disappointment potentially would have to be something like Fable. Because Fable, out of all the games that are coming out, probably has the most hype next to it, you know, like Gears of War or Doom. And, you know, when hype reaches a certain level, that's where disappointment can creep in. Like, you were expecting something and you got something else. So I would say just on the basis of that, it would be Fable would be my first choice, and then my second choice would be Gears of War E-Day. Assuming it launches this year. Because I think people are expecting a certain type of Gears game And also, I think, at least so far, it's been heavily pushed as a nostalgia play of like, oh, it's JD and Dom back. Don't you remember? Don't you remember what this was like in 20 years ago? Or you know what I mean? Like, where when nostalgia gets involved, sometimes that can be a detriment of because and I'll say because people have built up in their mind what Emergence Day was. And now you're making a game to show what it is. And sometimes what people have built in their minds is greater than what the creator can actually come up with. You know what I mean? So people have thought about Emergence Day for a long time, and whatever the coalition comes up with maybe doesn't reach people's expectations that they have in their own head for the game.
You know, I will say, like, one company that I feel really nails this was the team that made Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, except for the ending. But, like, when it comes to all the nostalgic beats in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was like they knew they had to over-deliver because what people had in their minds of those scenarios, people use their imagination because, like, you are kind of looking at just pixels in essence. So, like, they were like, okay, well, if we're going to do this scene, like the Honeybee Inn, for example, it's like we've got to not just deliver what people expect from the original, we have to over-deliver. We've got to double down on the music. We've got to double down on the spectacle and double down on the graphics and all the features and everything like that. And I feel like I think they really understood what they had to do and they nailed it. So I suppose like that's one of the constraints that Gears of War E-Day, maybe even Halo. Like if Halo is also going to be like this remake kind of thing and sort of retell the original story of Halo, then they're kind of going to have to really be careful because people have got a very sort of embedded idea about what Halo Combat Evolved is like, right?
Yeah. Now, of course, then people will be like, well, wait, you said you're going to be disappointed. No, I'm just saying, like, if the ones that have the most hype are the ones that could be prone to the biggest disappointments for people, right? Like, I don't really have any expectations for South of Midnight. So, and honestly, I don't have any for Avowed or Outer Worlds 2. Now, that may be different. You may be someone who played Outer Worlds 1 and loved it to death, and then you play Outer Worlds 2, and if it doesn't live up to that, it could be a disappointment, right? Yeah. Everybody's going to have a different answer to that question, but usually it's the ones... Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
No, I'm fine. What were you saying?
I was going to say, like, I find that right now, CD Projekt Red's having to sort of defend themselves a bit and try and fight off criticisms that the studio that made the original Witcher is no longer there. And they were like, oh, actually, there's like 100 devs still here who made the original. And, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Because I suppose people have certain expectations of The Witcher and what The Witcher should be. And there's all this drama about, you know, people fudding Siri and all that kind of stuff. Even though if you played The Witcher 1, it was pretty clear where they were going with Siri. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We have, let's see here. We have PandaMan77. With the PlayStation news about cancellations and the need to do remakes, is Xbox wrong for going multi-plat? It seems like the only path forward. Well, it seems like the only path forward for Xbox. I think Xbox has to do it. You know? I think, like... I think it's just a matter of... We spent a lot of money, and I think Game Pass and the console sales slowed down. And you're at that point now where it's just, this is something that has to be done. It's not something that is optional. This is a mandatory sort of thing.
I disagree. I don't think they need to do it, right? But I think for their ambitions, they need to do it. in essence, like I think they could just have a nice little Xbox console business and be fine with it. But because of like the shareholders demanding growth or whatever, right? It's got to go. It's got to go a little bit further than that. And also, they've got a huge AI play coming up, which is like partially how Phil would have sold all of this to Satya. You know, it would have been like, look, we can integrate this with AI, blah blah blah, do whatever. You know, and I know that's not something people want to hear, but in order to deliver some of this stuff, they need extra money to invest to deliver all of that stuff, all those features they want to do. And it's not just like features, like part of it's like just getting helping the studios grow, because a lot of those studios will be like, well, we want more staff because we want to make better and bigger games, and we kind of feel bottlenecked by this, right? And people have asked Microsoft to deliver higher quality too. So part of it's on that as well. So I think that they don't need to do it. They don't need to do it. I don't think things are that dire. I think what it is they've got ambitions to grow, and in order to reach that growth, the plan is to, you know, basically take money from Sony fans as well, you know? That's what I believe.
Yeah. I'm not sure the cancellations of PlayStation Rust. I'm not sure the cancellation of PlayStation games has really much to do or really says much about Xbox's like plan of Project Latitude of going multi-platform.
Mm.
I mean, I guess you could say they're both about more revenue at the end of the day. Like Xbox is going multi-platform for more revenue, and PlayStation was doing live service games because they wanted consistent recurring revenue all the time. So like in the end of the day, both those plays were about more money. But you know, I'm not sure there's really any like correlation between the two. I mean, we've talked about this before about the idea of, you know, like Xbox sometimes being ahead of the curve and doing things earlier than when people are ready for it. And maybe that's a case where, you know, 10 years from now, everybody's games is just everywhere. But Microsoft was the first to do it, and they took all the brunt, you know, all the doubt and all that stuff for it. But maybe that is the future. It's just that they're the first ones early to it. I don't know. We'll see. Omen says, with all the rumors of the Xbox games coming to Switch 2, do you think there's a chance Game Pass might come to the Switch 2 as well?
Nope.
No, I don't think so. The thing is, like, both Sony and Nintendo and want to sell full price games, and
they want people using their devices for their sales. So unless Microsoft was giving them like 90% of the cut, I don't think that works for them personally. But so yeah, I don't think you'll see that there.
I don't think so either. But they're going to support the Switch 2 with a lot of stuff, you know. We'll see how many games they announce for Switch 2 on April 2nd or around then. It's going to be a lot. Good old Colin says, hello, Rand and Jez. Do you think Nate Drake has a target marked on his back? With 3 console makers having news been leaked, his prominence has risen in the fan community. He's leaked news that's subsequently proven to be mostly correct and yet been vague enough that it's hard to track down his sources. Has he made it hard enough for everybody else to post their own spoilers? I don't think he's made it hard enough for anybody else to post their own spoilers. But I do think people wonder where the info comes from. I'm sure.
Yeah, companies investigate, you know, when things leak and stuff like that. They want to know how and where, when and why. So I don't think Nate has a target on his back. I mean, what he's doing is protected by the the First Amendment, Second Amendment, the one with the free speech. That's First Amendment, right?
Yeah. Yes.
My American history is not particularly great. So yeah, I don't think Nate has a target on his back, but his sources
they might be there's his sources that maybe work for, I don't know where Nate gets his information, but yeah, if those people work for said companies, they be in some big shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Microsoft, Nintendo, and PlayStation they don't like it when their stuff leaks, and
No.
they do go on quote unquote leak hunts from time to time to rat people out or to give you give someone the wrong piece of info because you think they might be leaking it to somebody else. But then sometimes it just doesn't. It may not necessarily be someone at like Microsoft. It could be just one of these third-party agencies that all these companies use to do marketing for it, right?
Yeah, or API thing, data mining, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
There's a lot of ways you could potentially get information, and who knows?
Yeah.
He's never gonna say what it is, but yeah, he definitely raised his profile with the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. So I think people
Yeah, nailed it, man.
people are gonna definitely go back and well, it's funny is like he'll be right, and then maybe if Gears E-Day doesn't release this year, gets delayed, or say it gets internally delayed, so it never had a date. People will just say, "Oh, you're wrong." Like you don't know what you're talking about because you got a thing wrong compared to like all the other stuff you've been right. That's how it always plays out.
Mm.
A Nerds and Other Legend says, "Gentlemen, thank you so much for being out there as an example of coherent discourse. The only thing better was when Rand goes nuclear." Jez, what if the Xbox handheld were to run SteamOS and the console continues to run Xbox OS and Windows? Microsoft already publishes everything on Steam. I imagine SteamOS could run some emulation layer for back-compat Xbox titles. Windows seems like it is way too bloated for an efficient handheld, and I imagine that it would be the path of least resistance to a handheld.
I mean, I do know that Microsoft and Valve are pretty close, and they because they're physically close, and they hang out, and stuff like that. So I do think like there is some potential for cross pollination there, between the companies about how they can, build a better platform for their customers, together in a symbiotic kind of way. But I do think like it would behoove Microsoft. I like that word. It would behoove Microsoft to actually work on their own shit because it'll elevate all of Windows if they can fix all the shit and the bullshit and the issues with Windows because they have to because they've got competition from Steam. I think that is what they should be doing rather than just letting Windows continue to be this nasty kind of bloated kind of thing, because it is bloated. And there's a lot of features in there which are extraneous and aren't necessarily if you were building a gaming system. And if you are building something like that, it shouldn't be too hard to reset the effort to make something more gaming oriented. And I think Microsoft should work on having their own platform because, look at all the issues they've got now with trying to get a mobile store going because they don't have their own platform. So they have to like deal with Google and Apple and basically beg them for table scraps. I mean, Steam and Valve might play nice today, but if Valve ever like sold up or went public or something like that, Microsoft would kind of be at their mercy, right? So
yeah,
it probably would be the path of least resistance, but it's also not the best forward-facing option in my view.
We got Sick and Tired. It says, "Gents, with Microsoft still not adding all of ABK games in the Game Pass, that tells me Microsoft is withholding it for a reason. Do you think Microsoft is thinking about a total redo of Game Pass tiers? If ABK back catalog goes into Game Pass, I could see them taking out EA Play. Something tells me Game Pass and ABK back compat is a discussion point at Microsoft."
I do. Wait, what? Say that again.
Okay, so he says, "Gents, with Microsoft..."
EA? Did he say about EA?
Yeah, he says, "Do you think Microsoft is thinking about a total redo of Game Pass tiers? If ABK's back catalog goes into Game Pass, I could see them taking out EA Play. Something tells me Game Pass and ABK back catalog is a discussion point at Microsoft."
I will say that the EA stuff in Game Pass has caused issues because EA's goals are very different to Microsoft's goals. And for example, I've heard that um, EA was someone who thought the family plan, for example, was going to be potentially harmful to their business model within the Xbox ecosystem or whatever. And because when Microsoft first set up the contracts with EA for all that stuff, there was no mention of a family plan in it. So now EA's like, hang on a sec, you guys are changing the deal, right? So they haven't been able to work out a deal on what that'll look like, basically, is what I've heard. But they're still trying to do it. They still want to get a family plan going, and I think they will get one going. But that is a extra layer of complexity when you have extra stakeholders whose licensed products are actually affected by your decisions, right? So if Microsoft was in a situation where they didn't have to bother with EA and they could just be like, well, let's sideline EA or whatever. But I'd imagine like the EA stuff is quite lucrative to have, especially if you've got like, people who are happy to wait out, not getting the latest FIFA and then maybe getting it later or the sports games or whatever. I imagine for Microsoft, they've got data which says like, we can't lose EA stuff.
Well, also, like, I'm sure whatever deal they sign with EA is on a time limit. Like, they sign a deal for X amount of years. I don't think it's something that they re-up every year,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, maybe.
I think the back catalog stuff has a couple factors. I think integration is going slower than they want. I also think they're building PC versions of those games. As we've seen them release, like, some of the older Call of Duties finally were put up on the Windows Store and put out, like Call of Duty Ghosts and stuff, like ones that never came to the Windows Store. Suddenly Microsoft put those in there. So I think some of that has to do with is like maybe they want to make sure that those games have a PC component to them rather than just an only console thing, and that could be taking up a lot of that's why some of it's taking as long as it has. Hasn't Xstasis talked about like Call of Duty's got their Activision has some games coming to Game Pass in the near future? I don't know. I think he's mentioned it, but I'm not sure. Let's see. We got Pat Rock. He said, "Could you foresee a scenario where Xbox is targeting a day and date release and run into a hiccup with the Xbox version? So release the PlayStation and PC version with an Xbox release coming months later. It's such an effed up thought that I could actually see Microsoft forcing Xbox to release the Xbox version later than the other versions." Whew. Could you imagine?
I don't think that'll happen.
Like, let's release Doom: The Dark Ages first on PC and PlayStation, and the Xbox version will come 6 months later. Like,
I don't think that'll ever happen.
The only thing you'll see is maybe Xbox release a PC game that comes to consoles later, or doesn't come to consoles at all, like Horror History Untold or Age of Mythology. Well, actually, Age of Mythology was day one on console. Like something like a StarCraft 3. If they ever do a StarCraft 3, would just be like PC only. I could just see that, but I don't really ever see a scenario where actually the PlayStation version is going to be first and the Xbox version is going to be last. I don't see that happening. And if that did happen, then they would deserve all the shit that they would get.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty fucked up.
I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah. And going back to Sick and Tired's thing about, do you think Microsoft will think about a total redo of Game Pass tiers? I mean, they just did, didn't they? They just redid the tiers. They moved day one out of... They literally added a new tier, standard, that actually doesn't, like games, day one games only come into Ultimate, so they've already adjusted their tiers.
Pray we don't adjust it further.
Yeah, pray we don't adjust the tiers further. I don't know what more they could, like, I don't really see what any more adjustments they could do. Because, I mean, shit, I don't know how long we talked about this before them. I always said I thought at some point day one was going to be locked to Ultimate, and that's exactly what happened. Because like, if you're looking at it being like, well, what could we do to get more revenue? It's like, well, people love Game Pass for the day one releases. Well, it's like, lock it to the highest tier, so people are forced to pay the most. And now you have the standard tier.
And for the people who don't think it's worth it because they don't play enough games, they can just buy the games bespoke.
Yeah. The only thing I could see Microsoft doing, outside of adding like a cloud only tier at some point in the future, but at that point you're like starting to have way too many tiers, right? Maybe at some point you get rid of the Game Pass core tier, which is like the multiplayer stuff, because you get rid of multiplayer access. Like, you don't have, like, multiplayer is just free. So you just get rid of that tier. And there's just the standard tier and there's the ultimate tier. But maybe at some point when cloud gaming becomes more of a thing, you add a cloud gaming only tier. Because right now, if you want a cloud game, you got to be on ultimate, right? To play even your own games, you got to be on ultimate. The only change I could see, and this would sort of be the death knell of Game Pass, and I don't really see this happening, but essentially them saying, we're removing all of our games from day one Game Pass, and you have to wait 6 months before you can play them. Kind of like what EA Play does right now. Where it's like, you can play the back catalog in Game Pass, but if you want to play Fable day one, you have to buy Fable. Or you can wait a year or 6 months, and then it'll be in Game Pass. But that would basically be the end of Game Pass as you know it, if they actually did that.
Yeah,
So,
what would be the point of subscribing at that point?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't see them redoing the tiers, because I think they've set them up to the point that they're like maximum extraction of money at this point right now. I don't think there's more you can do. Outside of adding lower tiers for access to like cloud gaming and stuff, and maybe like an ad tier if they ever want to do ads, which they talk about, but who knows if they ever will. You know, I mean, you're maybe you'll see price increases. Price increases happen all the time for subscription services, so I wouldn't expect the price of the Ultimate to be at $20 forever. At some point, it's going to go up again. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? I don't know, but I'm sure it'll go up at some point in time. We got a super chat here from Quilt. It says, Rand, as a longtime listener who enjoys Xbox 2 shows while designing and appreciates original storytelling, you might enjoy Shadow Delve, a gripping psychological horror series. Shadow Delve, huh? Never heard of it. Let me,
that was a big one. Big
Yeah.
super chat.
It's like what's MX? Do you know what currency MX is?
I do not.
Shadow Delve.
Sounds like a crypto.
Shadow Delve.
Cryptocurrency, bro.
Shadow Delve horror? Let me type in horror. Shadow Delve horror. Let's see if that comes up here. I will definitely look for it. Nothing came up on
Mexican pesos.
Mexican pesos. I'll have to go to like Goodreads and check it out. But thank you for the recommendation. I do like reading horror. I just actually finished a horror book the other day, but I'll definitely check it out because I'm always looking for horror recommendation, because horror can be a little picky. Like sometimes it's tough to find like a good horror book. But anyways, Jez, I think we've come to the end of the show. Did you enjoy yourself? Did everybody enjoy yourself in chat? If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. But did you have a good time, Jez? What game?
I did. I had a lovely time.
What game
I was
were
playing
you
Blasphemous.
You playing Blasphemous?
Playing
Okay.
Blasphemous, yeah. Like, it's kind of like Blasphemous is nice to play while podcasting and streaming because you don't have to think too hard.
Yes.
You don't have to. There's no story. It's just spectacle.
What do you? We got next week coming up. We have the Dev Direct. Are you excited to check it out?
Seeing next
more
week
of,
already?
Yes, Thursday the 23rd.
Holy fuck!
We got a podcast on the 24th, the day after, talking about everything that happened then, and maybe whatever else happens this week. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped. I got to finish my review of the secret game before then.
Yeah, I mean, to see more Doom gameplay, maybe get a release date, check out more of South of Midnight, Expedition 33. Hey, playing Metaphor, I'm back into turn-based RPGs now, so Expedition is like, all right, let's check that out, and then whatever the secret games are, whatever that legendary Japanese IP you talked about, and maybe Final Fantasy content or something. Seems might be a good week. So yeah, until then, guys, hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you check out our interview with well, it's not really an interview, but our chat with Special Nick, which we did on Tuesday. It's in the Patreon where you can support us.
Mr. Nick.
Patreon.com/XB2. A lot of different tiers, a lot of different things. We'd appreciate anybody that wants to support us. And
yeah, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be playing Metaphor ReFantazio. Hopefully I can finish it because I feel like I'm coming towards the end, but I'm gonna try to do everything in the game, and then just twist the knife into Jez's back when I do complete it. And then immediately start Persona 5. And oh boy, when I start Persona 5 and I'm getting Jez is gonna be sweating bullets. Could you imagine?
God damn it.
Could you imagine? But anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. And we'll see you next week. Keep it gaming.
Rock and roll, baby.
Later.